All right, I'll make a motion to open the May 14th, 2025 meeting of the Groveland Conservation Commission at 7:02 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I don't think we have any members remote. No, we don't, right? Okay, and we do have a quorum, so we're ready to begin the meeting. We do have quite a full schedule this evening, and so hopefully everyone will be patient. We'll try to get through these things as quickly as possible. So our first hearing tonight is a continuation of an application for the post-closure of the Haverhill landfill. It's a notice of intent and a Groveland notice of intent. So I'll make a motion to open the meeting, and the hearing, and continue it on 5 Yema Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bruce?
Good evening.
Hi.
Drop up there. Ready to go? Good evening. My name is Bruce Haskell with Langdon Environmental. I'm the engineer for the City of Haverhill and Wholesome, Inc., who are the proponents for this project. I can give you an update on the project, but I could also, I think maybe a couple of the commissioners weren't here for the original one, just give you a broad overview of the project if you'd like. It's really up to the chair. So
Yeah, you can briefly.
So the project is off Yema Road, which is right about the intersection of where Main Street becomes Old Groveland Road in Haverhill. And it is the old Haverhill landfill, which is a Superfund site that got drawn into the Superfund process related to the Groveland Wells Superfund site out there. It was the city's and Groveland's municipal solid waste landfill for up until about 1981. After that, it took wastewater sludge from the wastewater treatment plant in the old Haverhill paperboard plant until 1996, at which time it was shut down. We've been working through the closure process for the site. It's broken up into 2 areas, and again, if you went to the site walk, there's a southern mound, which is already capped, which sort of comes up to the back of Old Groveland Road, and we're Yema Road, which is a short road off of Main Street in Groveland. And then there's a northern mound, which is essentially 22 acres or so along the Merrimack River that's on the sort of the north side of the old railroad tracks, which will become a bike path that will connect to the Groveland bike path in the future. The city is proposing to construct a recreational facility at the site, which is essentially 2 soccer fields. Let's come forward and show 2 soccer fields just to orient you. Yema Road comes up through here. Main Street, Old Groveland Road is down here. Merrimack River, Johnson's Creek, which for a portion of it is the municipal boundary between the city and the town of Groveland. The city, this green area, sort of colored area, is the rough edge of the northern mound of the landfill, which has to have a cap in accordance with Mass DEP and EPA requirements installed on it. There's a lot of detail about what's going to happen at the river, and we can certainly answer questions about that. But the ultimate end plan is to have 2 soccer fields on the site and to construct a path that will access out to the area out there. And all this work, I want to say, is in Haverhill and has been. The order of conditions has been closed by the Haverhill Conservation Commission. I'm awaiting the final document, which I can share once I receive it there. The bike path would run here. This is an old aerial, but the Groveland bike path ends about in that location over there, and it will connect through a bridge over Johnson Creek at some point, and the city's in the process of planning that and working with Mass DOT to work on that. The work that is in Groveland is predominantly from Yema Road, the end of Yema Road off Main Street to the city line out there. The only other thing that's part of this project I should have mentioned that's in Haverhill is a parking lot to support the fields, also the bike path in the future. out there. Again, that's within it's within Haverhill. So just to reorient you, Main Street turning into Old Groveland Road, Lawrence Road here to sort of a more residential street. Southern Mound is capped. Was capped 10 years ago or so. Yema Road coming in here. And then there's a long paved road. This site was once, the property in Groveland was once an asphalt batch plant that Barden, Trimont, and various entities ran for decades out there. That has now been taken down and I believe shipped to Brazil, the equipment actually. So the work that's happening in Groveland is essentially a turtle nesting habitat, which is restoration for some of the parking lot and the different mapped habitat things. And then the road that comes through here will be rebuilt, the paved road to provide access to the park. And then there's a turtle fence that will run the entire length of that road out there. So the thing we were waiting for since the last time we came in was the final conservation and management permit from the Natural Heritage Program, which we have received and I've shared, and I believe they shared with you. Out there, which we received last week or the week, just early part of last week out there. The only thing that's changed in that, and that's got a lot of reporting requirements, and I certainly can answer questions if the commissioners have questions about that. The only thing that changed is they asked us at this point here, there's some areas, it's just more up in here, where ATVs could get in to the turtle areas out there. Essentially everything sort of east of the road is going to be, beyond the fence, is going to be designated conservation land as part of this. And again, we have to work through, because of the multiple ownerships, who's going to own it, how that's going to move forward out there. There's an escrow account for maintenance that's required out there, that's sort of set aside and then only accessed if the maintenance isn't done there. But the only thing that was added was a request to throw some small fence in here, just to keep, there's a little path that ATVs can go down and get into the turtle area there. So they did add that as a condition beyond what the plan that you showed, and we'll work with almost everything is coordinate with Natural Heritage, have them come out and agree with the location of that. We have just started the construction public bidding process that the city has to go through for this. We're going through the process of doing that, and that's being expedited because of a funding opportunity that the city has. So we're moving forward with that. Certainly, if the commission elects to issue an order and close the hearing, that will be provided to the contractors as part of the work, along with these plans, including we actually added the little fence. Just sort of a note. The fence has to be added and be included there. So that is the overview, and I think I just mentioned we have gotten the Haverhill Conservation Commission closed their hearing last Thursday, voted to issue an order. I haven't seen the order itself out there, but I think most of the conditions will relate to the Natural Heritage Conservation and Management Permit, and I can certainly answer any questions you have on the project overall or the specifics, and what we saw when we were out there in the site walk almost a month and a half ago.
Bruce, who will manage the maintenance plan? Is it the city of Haverhill?
It's going to be a combination of the two. So there's two sites of maintenance out here. There's the maintenance related to the conservation and management permit. Then there's an overall maintenance plan and monitoring plan for the landfill, and these are all sort of post-closure after the construction is done. So they have an agreement between the two of them to manage that. My guess is it will primarily be the city of Haverhill that will take the lead in doing that, because that is actually an easier path forward than for as far as the escrow accounts and things like that.
Okay, and so it really has nothing to do with the town of Groveland. Groveland's not taking any more responsibility on that property, even though it's within our town, right?
That is correct, and I think that there's two options for how that property would be set aside: conservation restriction, and then the city of Haverhill Conservation Commission essentially subdividing and acquiring that portion of the property out there. But in any case, it's not available for any other use other than this without really going through a much more extensive process
Do
again.
they have any idea, like, who will hold the conservation restriction?
No, they do not. No, I think that again, I don't want to speak for them because we just have the permit and there's a lot of things going on.
Yep.
I think they're leaning to this, the City Conservation Commission actually owning the property out there, which apparently, I wasn't aware of this, but Haverhill does own property in Boxford.
Oh.
Out there around an old reservoir that the city had, that Bradford had at one point out there.
Yeah, but if the city of Haverhill owns it, they can't hold the CR on it.
No, but there wouldn't be, so the way way I read the conservation management permit, if the City Conservation Commission holds the property for conservation purposes, they don't necessarily need a CR.
Oh.
Okay, and again, we're still trying to work all that out. It's got to be out there, but we'll put the proper, pieces in place for that out there, so.
And do you know offhand what the total acreage is in Groveland?
Offhand, no. It's probably 8 to 10 acres in Groveland out there, in that range.
About 10?
Probably about 10 acres, yeah.
The table says 20, 19.5.
In Groveland? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I'll take 19.5. Again, that may count property that's actually over on the other side of Johnson's Creek that Wholesome Aggregate Barton Tremont owns.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where the parcel, I just don't know where the parcel starts and ends.
I don't seem to have the complete communication from Natural Heritage, like it ends here.
No, I didn't print that out.
And I don't see it in
Big.
my packet either. So I guess that's the part I'm kind of interested in, is the turtle mitigation. So they access that area from the brook that's right there?
The turtles.
Yes.
Yes, the brook. So it's a net, so the brook, this is the brook that comes along here, and they'll access it through here. We walk down at the site, walk down into this, sort of the rough area for that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we have to retain a turtle expert, and then also the town of, also the Natural Heritage has to be consulted on, exactly where and the dimensions and the location of the nesting area. And then there's some other requirements to maintain the other area, to make sure it doesn't become an issue for the turtles there.
Okay, so there's a management plan for that?
Yes, there's a requirement to submit a management plan, out there. And again, there's several things that are like before construction starts, after construction's done. I mean, there's a series of sequence of things.
And that's in perpetuity, or?
I believe it travels with the site. So this permit, once it's signed by both the city and Wholesome's representative, goes to the registry for the property out there.
And then you hire like a biologist or something to help you, or how does that work, where you hire somebody, a turtle guy?
A turtle person out there. I don't know if they're a biologist or not, but there'll be a turtle person out there. So.
Okay.
We have to retain somebody during construction, again, so to make sure that there's no impacts or takes to the turtles too.
Okay.
This is exactly like our 8-acre parcel over there on Center Street, same exact situation.
Same island of turtle land. It's very sad.
Permanent restriction on it.
Yeah, but it's a very small area.
You have anything, Terry? Bill? Nope.
So do we have that full letter or no? Do you have?
No, I didn't print it out because it's like
If-
too large.
I mean, if you want to see something, I have my comments all over out there, my little notes about do this, star things and things, but out there, we certainly have the
We
full.
have it. I
Yeah.
mean, we can refer to it when we're writing our orders.
And the same plans that you have are essentially the same plans that are, going to be constructed, with the exception of that small restriction fence to keep ATVs or four-wheelers out of the area.
Yep.
And then that's required to be posted, that it's a,
Yes, there's some
Habitat.
signage, I can't remember exactly what the signs say, but there's some signage required in the conservation management permit to say, to stay out, essentially.
because it's turtle
Turtle habitat.
habitat?
is
It'll
out there.
specify that?
I don't remember. Sometimes I think,
I
again, I don't know. I don't remember specifically, and I could look it up, but
Okay.
sometimes you don't want to say it's turtle habitat or.
You don't think so?
Out there, so.
In
out
case
there.
people want to go.
No.
People get curious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
we're looking for turtles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a good idea.
yeah. That's generally the way agencies approach that out there. But I believe the sign has to be submitted to Natural Heritage for
Oh, okay.
approval
Okay,
out
good.
there. And certainly, any correspondence we have with Natural Heritage, submittals of permits and plans, we would certainly share with the commission out there for your.
Is there currently traffic there, or are they just concerned that there might be?
Currently, turtles?
No, ATV.
Oh, my God. there were
Yes, there
complaints
is.
when we were
Yes,
there.
there is. There definitely is. There's ATVs that come up and down the National Grid property, because they actually own that property. That goes almost back into the center, into the
It's
end of
posted and
Bradford
there's still
out there.
So they got flushed out of Aggregates' other property, and now they're going there, huh?
Well, they still get onto aggregates. They'll.
I'm talking about the one on Salem Street.
Oh, yes, yeah, the quarry up there, yes, yeah. I'm not familiar with that too much, but.
Bruce, was there any potential or interest on Natural Heritage's part to remove some of that pavement that seems to just be derelict and?
So the pavement, when we walked in out there around the Quonset hut, that's going to get removed but replaced out there. And then the roadway is going to stay within the existing limits of the old roadway that they had.
Or maybe it
constructed.
wasn't all pavement, it was maybe gravel, hard packed gravel, all around, sort of around that turtle nesting mitigation.
I believe that is actually a decent, substrate out there, but we have a requirement to maintain it, so that would come up in the turtle management plan if there's some, I don't know, scarifying it to soften it or something like that to make that there. I mean, it's sort of like central quarter-acre turtle nesting area, but I think the other areas are supposed to be accessible and usable out there, so.
All right. No other questions, so somebody want to make a motion to close the hearing and issue our orders?
How about you, Mike? Sorry.
It's a pretty easy one. This one's easy.
Then you go ahead and I'll second.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing for 5 Yema Road, notice of intent, Groveland notice of intent, and issue orders of condition.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? No? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And you'll see some activity hopefully here, so out there, but.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a new filing for an RDA, Groveland RDA, for a proposed sewer line connection at 860 Salem Street. Somebody want to make a motion to open that hearing?
I'm going to recuse myself just because Water Sewer Commissioner, just so there's no appearance of any conflict whatsoever.
Okay,
It's just easier that way. You get 4 people to vote, everything's fine.
So I'll make a motion to open the hearing on 860 Salem Street for an GRDA for proposed sewer line connection.
a second. All in favor, opening the hearing? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Paul Bergman, go ahead.
Thank you. Is this on?
Yep.
As the chairman said, my name is Paul Bergman. My company, Bergman and Associates, assembled this application. This is at Chesterton. To explain the orientation of the map, this is Salem Street down here, the entrance to Chesterton, the big apartment I think, complex across the street. My understanding is that Chesterton dates back to the 50s or 60s. It's been there for a long time. Started as a small company. It has grown to several hundred employees. They're adding more people. It's a pretty active, successful business, apparently. And since the 50s and 60s, they've had leaching fields. They started with a small one, and they graduated from that. And there's, I think, like a half a dozen fields north and west of the facility. And I'm guessing that the soils where those fields are located was pretty marginal. And so much so that the Chesterton officials tell me that they've been just pumping the septic tanks that lead out to those fields regularly so that the leaching fields don't get any leachate. And they've gotten to the point where they don't want to do that anymore for obvious reason. And we're also told that as part of that apartment complex across the street, the developer had to pay for a sewer line over in Murray. There's like 3 Murrays. There's like Murray Ave, Murray Court, and Murray. So it's over here on Murray. So we've been working with Colin at Groveland Wastewater almost since day one. He's very aware of this. Building A is straightforward. We're going to collect the effluent out of that building, pump up the driveway to a manhole that also got built as part of the apartment complex developers project. This is A right here. Building B and C. So as you drive in, you go past A, you go over a bridge, and then there's building B and C. Building C, we're collecting all that wastewater. I'm just giving you background of what we're doing here, so it's hopefully clear to you. We're disconnecting all the lines that go out to the leaching fields, obviously, and building new gravity and force main lines to collect the water going counterclockwise around the buildings to a manhole here, and then cross-country to the new manhole on Murray. We're going through these people's property, and we're actually, just as a side note, it's outside of any jurisdictional areas, but Chesterton is paying for them to disconnect their septic system and connect up to the sewer because the Chesterton line is going right through their property, so there's like an agreement between Chesterton and them. Mike Seecamp did all the flagging of the wetlands. Chairman Dempsey met with my engineer and I a month and a half ago, I think, and Chairman Dempsey recommended a request. Almost all of the excavation for the gravity and force main lines are in pavement, either parking area or asphalt sidewalk. And I can tell you that Chesterton is anxious to move ahead with this project. They just don't want to be pumping out the tanks anymore, and the sewer line is in over in Murray, the sewer line is in place, and yeah, that's about it.
So is there work that's in jurisdiction? Oh, down here, it's jurisdictional, okay.
Yeah.
So Paul, tell us what they're going to do along that stream exactly.
Where it isn't a trench, and the trenches are relatively shallow for reasons of the design, the civil design, but where it does go across grassed area, we would have wattles. It's a cut and cover operation, and I can tell you that the new sewer line, and by the way, this plan or a similar plan is part of an application or plan submittal to Colin because he has to approve that, and so does Paul Jessel over at Haverhill Wastewater, because the wastewater ends up going over to Haverhill. So for any excavation next to the, down in the area of the stream, it would be straw wattles. But in the interest of time, Chesterton, they want to get that cut and cover process done pretty quickly.
How big are the lines? The pipe?
For cleaning and maintenance purposes, we're making gravity lines 8-inch, and then what they call force mains are 2-inch PVC pressure pipe. We don't need 8-inch for hydraulic reasons. You do it just for,
Okay, so it is, I mean, the trenches aren't even gonna be that
Right.
wide. They're just gonna,
exactly, yeah, a small bucket, yeah.
So this trench is, Commissioners, this trench is within 25 feet of the stream, because the building is within, up to 25 feet of the stream. You know, the site's been there this way for many, many, many years. It's been my experience that Chesterton has been very careful with that stream, always filing with us whenever any work is done for tree removals or building expansion and everything else. And so I believe that even though it's within the 25-foot buffer, that, you know, it's obviously a previously disturbed area. It's not like they're disturbing a new area that's 25 feet into the buffer zone. This is already paved, sidewalk, grass, right up to the bank of the stream.
the benefits totally outweigh.
Yeah, well, right.
What we're gonna do, so, or what they're gonna do, so.
So how long is this process going to take from when they start trenching to having the pipe all laid in and covered back up?
I'm guessing it's, I can't speak for the contractor, sir, but I'm guessing a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks. That really comes down to the contractor. I can tell you that it's, the Chesterton, their intent is to get it done this calendar year.
Yeah, but I'm talking like when they're actually going to lay that 8-inch pump pipe right along the building B in the stream. They're going to dig, open, lay the pipe down, and then cover it back up. That's going to be, I hope it's not going to be 6 weeks of open.
Oh, no,
trench.
no. No, 6 weeks for,
For the whole project, yeah. But I'm just wondering for when they start digging for the pipe, to having the pipe laid out to the parking lot away from the stream, is that roughly?
a couple of days.
Couple of
I mean,
days.
From a safety standpoint, I can tell you that, especially with all the people walking around on lunch break and going to and from work, that even though it's going to be taped off and so forth, they're going to want to get that covered back up.
I don't even know what this looks like. Have you guys, have you been to Chesterton before?
No, but
Have you?
again.
Of course you have. Why am I
Just in a
here?
lot.
I mean, I wonder if we need a site visit, I guess.
Well, but it's already paved, right? You said so.
I don't even know what the stream looks like. I mean, this is hard for me to imagine.
Again, I'm wondering, does that really matter? You're taking out a whole leaching system and you're putting all that wastewater into a pipe, and I think you're doing more to protect the area than there's now, so.
Just virtually all the leaching fields are not, I don't believe they're within buffer zones, but rightfully so, Chesterton just started pumping the tanks regularly. It's a very expensive undertaking, just because they didn't want, leachate leaving the leaching field and getting into the wetlands. So they've been pretty careful.
What does it look like at that southeast corner of Building B, where it looks like it's really just feet between the stream bank and where the work will be taking place?
The red rectangle, is that
That's sort
what?
of this corner here, that southeast corner, where the work and the stream bank are right up against each other.
Right. We need a pump chamber there because it's a combination gravity and force main system. The effluent comes out of the west side of B and C to a pump chamber here, and then it pumps up to a manhole about here, collect some more bathrooms that are inside the building, I'm getting into detail, and then gravity down to a pump chamber there, then pump up the driveway entrance driveway to another manhole, and then gravity over to Murray. And we've looked at multiple designs for this. We even, last year, we kicked around the idea of trying to collect all the effluent and get it down to here to building A. But in order to do that, we either have to go along the bridge over the stream or under the stream. And I told Chesterton, I said, I'm not crazy about it, and I can guarantee you the conservation isn't going to be crazy about it. So that's part of the reason why we came up with this design.
How big of a dig is that, if you have to put a pump station in as well?
The pump stations, we're still sizing them, to be honest, but it's about the same size as a septic tank, rectangular, so 6 by 10, roughly.
Okay, so this is an RDA, so we have to either decide that there's a positive determination, which Chesterton would have to file a notice of intent, or a negative determination, and they wouldn't have to file a notice of intent. So we have to justify whatever our decision is to DEP. And so I believe personally that we could issue a negative determination on this under the following choice, and that is number 3 of under negative determination on a determination of applicability, and that is that there's no permanent alteration of the area, the buffer zone area. All work is in the buffer zone, and all work is taking place in an already disturbed area. It's not that this is a new set of work in a new area that's never been disturbed. Anybody want to argue against that?
Well, Mike, can there still be conditions about silt control, erosion control, if in a negative determination? Can there be any conditions in that, or is?
Yeah, we can issue conditions. We would issue conditions under the Groveland RDA. So we would typically ask for the erosion controls, timing, scheduling, monitoring. Definitely, I'll put that in, pre-construction meeting, all under the Groveland RDA. So I think that, based on what the applicant says, it's going to be a small trench. We can limit the size. We can limit the time to be, 1 week or less, perhaps. We can have erosion controls put along the entire trench between the stream and the trench. And, of course, pre-construction meeting and no work within the seasonal restriction. So all that can be in there for our permit.
If I may, Chairman, I mean, again, a lot of the trench, even adjacent to the stream, is in pavement, so I could see erosion control in any grassed areas, but if it's a paved...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's that entire grassy area between the sidewalk. Any other questions? Okay,
You're making the motion.
I know.
I don't even know what I'm looking at, so.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing, issue a negative determination Number 3, which is the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in regulations, but will not alter an area subject to jurisdiction under the Act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent subject to the following conditions, which, as I mentioned, small trench filled and replaced within a week with erosion controls along the stream and pre-construction meeting.
Second.
Yes.
Let's see, we hold off on the final vote till Stephanie's done.
Okay. 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 So the closest we get to the stream is down here, where you're going to be digging your trench, and this is pavement here? This is pavement for sure, because that's a... Okay, that helps you do the thing. Okay, so do you think, so this is all mostly paved, so is this the only grassed area here?
That is, predates me, I've only been in town since '90, but, Terry.
It seems like it.
He's in the
Yeah,
corner.
so-
He's in the old man's rocking chair.
Okay.
Might have to wake
Oh,
him
I
up.
see him, I see him here. It just,
Okay. Yes, thank you.
We'll wake him up.
goes under a culvert or what at that point, but.
If it's just isolated or.
Any other questions, Stephanie?
No, it's just I didn't have a plan in front of me, so I wanted to go see. Nope.
Anybody else have any questions about the motion? All right. All right, we'll take a vote then. All in favor of the motion to issue negative determination number 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do the conditions have to get recorded, like if we were doing an NOI, or do they get recorded at the, it's been a while since we've had to do an RDA. Do they get recorded at the registry?
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
So all that we'll done is, we issue our DA to you and the DEP, and then along with that will be the attachment of the Groveland RDA with the permit and the requirements there, conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Terry's back.
I'm back. Rested.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing of the right-of-way off Uptack Road. It's a Groveland notice of intent only, proposed for soil borings on tap lines B 154 and C 155. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor, open the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Hannah Raditz. I'm a wetland scientist with BSC. I apologize for not having visuals in front of you all tonight. I did try to print them out, but I had trouble with it. I'll try to keep the description as detailed as I can so that we can walk through this step by step. As mentioned, this is a soil boring project, and the purpose of these soil borings is for the planning and design of structures within the right-of-way. These soil borings are split up into two main sites. One of the sites is off Uptack Road, and that involves 4 soil borings. The other one is off of King Street and Route 97, right by the King Street substation. That involves 11 soil borings. These soil borings, which will be conducted with a small track-mounted rig, which can just roll down the right-of-way on the existing access roads, pretty easily. These soil borings that it drills are about 4 to 6 inches in diameter, so roughly 1.5 square feet in impact where they excavate the soils. The access for these is mostly from existing right-of-way access and driveways by the substation, although there's many wetlands on this line. And so to cross them safely and to not harm the wetland, timber construction mattings will be used for the access, and also to create small 50 by 50 work pads in order to set up their area around the base of these structures where they conduct these soil borings and then get safely back out. This work is proposed within BVW, as well as the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW and the local 25-foot no cut and mow, as well as over intermittent streams, so that's inland bank, which will all be forded by or spanned by the timber mats, and that means we would place a mat on either side off of the banks and then have another mat on top, and that allows for no impacts to the center of the stream and no impacts to the bank as well. As I mentioned, timber matting is going to be required to access many of these soil boring locations. In all, it's 20,901 square feet, or roughly half of an acre. This is all temporary in nature and will only be needed for the access and soil boring activities, which is generally a pretty quick endeavor. The soil borings that we have, there are 7 within BVW, and that will amount to roughly 11 square feet of impacts, just to bore down into the soil to do the appropriate testing and then to refill with that soil. The same procedure is in buffer zone and upland, where there's an additional 5 in buffer and I believe 2 that are outside of conservation jurisdiction. In terms of the regulations, these activities are exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act as their utility maintenance activities, and they are also exempt under the MISA for the natural heritage and priority and estimated habitat, which overlaps the line, so long as they comply with the appropriate BMPs and the operation and management plan that National Grid has in place for the protection of wildlife within these areas. As I mentioned before, the resource areas on the site, BVW, Inland Bank, Natural Heritage, and the buffer zones, all of this work will be contained within small work pads. If they're in upland and not within the wetland, they can do simple mowing. For the most part, it's just grasses and some shrub trimming so that they can access the sites where they'll be doing soil boring. So it's pretty simple, and no disturbance of roots is proposed, just trimming to allow them to get the borings in place. For this whole procedure, sediment and erosion controls will be on site as needed. For the most part, because mattings will be used pretty extensively, there's not much of a need for sediment and erosion controls, but as they do that digging, they can have some bales or straw wattles on site where they will extract the soil, which again is a quite small amount, just a little pile next to the boring, and then dig it back in to make sure that all that soil is backfilled into the hole. The refueling and maintenance of equipment can be conducted off-site, especially because they have a substation, so there'll be no need to do that within buffer zones or within resource areas. And of course, they'll have spill kits on hand for cleaning up any potential messes. For the restoration, again, it's a pretty simple matter because these are small excavated holes. They'll just be backfilling the soil, and if there's any soil remaining, which is not anticipated, that will be removed from the site and disposed of appropriately. When they're done with this work, they'll also remove the sediment controls, they'll remove the construction matting, and if needed, they'll tamp down the grading if there's any change in grading, but it's not anticipated again because these are quite small. And they'll also be spreading some conservation mixed seed appropriately if it's BVW or if it's buffer zone. That concludes all of the important parts, so I will turn it over to the Conservation Commissioners for their questions.
How long will it take them to do this work?
So putting the matting in place is probably the lengthiest task, but even still, they can do that pretty quickly within a couple days. The soil boring itself, because there's not too many, also can be pretty confined. So I imagine that this work would be confined within a month, including setting out the mats, gaining access, cleaning up after they do the soil borings, which again is quite brief, and then pulling everything out in restoration. So I guess worst case scenario, 6 weeks to 2 months.
You talk about square feet of impacted area. How deep are these borings? How far down? How many cubic feet are you extracting, I guess is my question.
The depths of the borings, I believe it's 8 to 10 feet down.
10 feet. So you're pulling out about 15, 20 cubic feet of muck.
It says less than 24 square feet.
Square feet, not cubic feet.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I'm
just
looking for how big is that pile gonna be?
Okay.
And the pile's gonna be a few wheelbarrows full.
Yep, and because they have 50 by 50 pads that are either mowed or matted, they have the area to be able to place that excavated soil and put that back in. It shouldn't be.
Keep it under control.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a need for any sort of containers besides a tarp and sediment controls.
And any equipment with hydraulics and stuff is gonna be moved out of the resource area for overnight. There's not gonna be overnight storage of the drilling rig or any of the other pieces of equipment.
Yep, I imagine this is quite brief, these soil borings themselves, so they'll probably walk it back out to the road and load it back up on a trailer and take it away, especially because there's so few borings to be needed, so there'll be no need to store them overnight within the resource areas.
Okay.
When do they want to do this?
Their intention is to do it this summer. It's in conjunction with a asset and maintenance project that's coming up within the coming years. So they're hoping to do this design work this summer so that they can finalize their plans this year.
Anna, you had talked about vegetation mowing to be able to access the boring sites, but what about access to the sites through the right-of-way? Is there expected clearing for that?
Yeah, so with this site, because of that very large wetland off uptack, there is some existing access, but they're going to be matting under the wires instead of using that old access. So they won't need to do any mowing there. When they get to the far side, there's a lot of shrubs, so they'll probably need to trim a bunch of branches, maybe cut down to the base. But this is all going to be at the base of these structures where it's already pretty disturbed. So that's how they'll get access for the uptack site. And for the site by the King Street substation, there's an existing driveway and sort of a maintained mowed area around the substation so that they can get around it. So they'll be using that for upland access around it. So mostly grasses and some trimming of shrubs.
Any other questions?
Oh, and I did forget to mention, this was sort of last minute, and this is what I was hoping to print tonight. Structure 93, due to design changes, this is a structure that's right next to the King Street substation. I can show you on my phone, was shifted away from the wetlands. This brought the work pad and the borings outside of the 25-foot no mow, so it is a betterment. It sort of just went from being at an angle here and then to the substation, pulled further down towards their parking area. So it is a betterment, but I wanted to bring that in front of you. A physical copy should be delivered to the Conservation Department tomorrow, as I discussed with them.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion for the right-of-way off Uptech Road for the soil boring project for this Groveland notice of intent to be approved.
Sec-
Yeah, and we'll close the hearing.
Second,
Any questions on the motion? The motion is to approve the project and issue orders under the Groveland notice of intent process. No questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you for your time. It was good to meet you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Anna.
you. Okay, we're going to continue along here, so next on the agenda is it says a GRDA, but actually it's a combination of a RDA, GRDA permit for proposed tree cutting in the buffer zone at 9 Katy Lane. So I'll make a motion to open the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
and for historical reasons, I'm going to recuse myself again.
All in favor of opening the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. My name is John Tilton. I'm a civil engineer with Williams Sprages, but I've known the Rex for quite a while. This is actually not my plan, but I came to assist them tonight on what they want to do on the site. So they're presently building a house on Lot 9, Katy Lane at the end, and some of the site visits they had, they noticed there's some dead trees, underbrush, some invasive plants there. So what they like to do, like to go in there and trim that up, remove some of the dead trees, the underbrush, invasive vines in the site itself. But what they did have an assessment done by Jason Foote from Northern Tree Service, and I believe you have a copy of that. And, what he found in his assessment was invasive vines, some dead trees, black knot, which is aggressive fungus on the site, on some of the trees, some severe decline in some trees, and he found also some animal ash borer causing some dead trees on the site. So he recommended by trimming up some of the trees, cutting some of the dead trees, removing the invasive plants, that would help bring back some of the growth in the area and restore it probably back to where it should be at some point. So, am I missing anything at all, Steve, that you want to cut up? So,
In this area here, where it's on the plan, the corner of the house, there's an area of about 6 trees. They're all probably less than 4 inches in diameter, and they're all basically dead, that are just inside the 100-foot buffer. And then there's one ash tree right on the 75-foot buffer that was assessed by Jason as being dead and as a threat to the house due to its size. And he felt that that tree would definitely be coming down in the near future, which could jeopardize both the house. And behind the property here is a small road. It's probably about maybe 8 feet wide. And then there's the horse farm, where the horses are basically kept in gated pens, so that, would cause, danger to them also. So those were the major trees that we wanted to remove. And then along the back area, there was one more tree that was filled with black ash, or the mold.
yeah, the mold you mentioned, yeah.
And that is leaning over the road towards the horse farm area. So our concern was just to be able to remove those trees from that area and then replant, brush type, like blueberry bushes and things like that, that could revitalize this area and bring, better health to the area that's adjacent to the house.
Did all of you in the Hi, I'm Juliet Reck, having the house built for us.
Did all of you see, I know it's just a septic map, so pardon it, but did you see this in your package? It was a septic map that had the 100-foot and the 75-foot. It kind of bows out on our property. There's 5 actual big Conservation Commission monuments, the granite monuments, they're already on the property. And I kind of named them from the corner of the house as number 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one is all the way here. But it looks like it's pretty far away on this little, sorry, I don't have it big. But number 2 I had circled, which is right here, which I think in reality, that conservation marker is a little further into the tree line. But that second Conservation Commission marker, if any of you have done a site walk, we did meet Mike out there. But that was the one I was really focused on, was that second marker closest to the house for kind of clearing from the front right corner of the house, if you're looking at the house from the road, clearing those trees up to that second Conservation Commission marker, which kind of dips into the 75, because those are the ones that looked really dead. And I just actually walked out there again day before yesterday. I see some vegetation is coming in on them, but in the winter it was a little easier to see like how hollow and stuff a lot of them were. Jason actually is a certified arborist that did go out there and give the description of what he saw. But I was really mainly concerned about the trees closest to the house, not only falling on our house and damaging, it's a very expensive, nice home we're building, but also I've got teenagers, we've got a lot of kids in the yard all the time too. A lot of these trees are fallen, there's branches that are suspended, hanging in a lot of trees. And every few weeks when I go out there, I see some more branches falling down. I just don't want anything, safety reasons, falling on anyone in the yard. Also the farm animals, that dirt road that is adjacent to us around the stables and stuff of the horse farm, it's a horseback riding farm, and they are always, little kids and stuff are riding on those horses there on that dirt road. So mainly for safety reasons, I understand the importance of the buffer zone and the wetlands and the depressed area in the far corner of our land closest to the road where the drain easement is. But I'm not really so concerned about even dead ones that are falling down there closer as we get into the 50, 25-foot buffer zone. I would like that area really just to kind of clean it up. There's a ton of poison ivy everywhere that's coming in. A lot of vines are twisting around all those trees. I mean, I'm not a tree specialist, but from what I could see, I did walk around there a little bit with Peter Durkee, who's our tree warden in Georgetown. He came out to take a look as well, and with Jason, and it just looked like I'm not really 100% concerned about all those trees down there that are in the more lower elevation. It's really just concerning about the ones that are closest to the house. I did take a bunch of photos. You want to pass them out? I think there were some photos included with the files, but here's some other ones.
This is the trees that we're primarily concerned about.
Were you
and
there?
then
You
this
weren't
is the
there.
ash tree that's dead.
This is a winter picture?
That's a winter picture, yeah.
Well, from last month,
Or last month.
but before they got
And
there.
that's the same grouping of trees right on
These
the
are really
side
the
of
ones
house.
closest to the house. Yeah, so there's like the ones right at that front corner of the house that look like
So
they were
this
the
would be
closest.
the group
And then,
Those are the
we're
ones that were
concerned
outside of
and then this ash
jurisdiction,
tree
right?
right there. The
These were the
pines
ones that were
are out
outside of
behind them.
jurisdiction.
Yeah, well,
I think
yeah.
These are all
Right.
ash, the ones that are right up tight to the
Yes.
house?
So I have some questions.
sure, sure.
So
Can we pass these down?
how many dead trees would you like to take down between 50 feet to 100 feet?
From the 50-foot to the 100-foot. What? Well, he's saying all the way to the 100-foot. So when you had come out with us, you had said that, I believe there were 5 that we could take. And then I was like, can't we just get these 2 right here? Because they were all in that cluster. And you were like, no, because it really looks like the 100-foot bowed kind of in a circle,
Yep.
where I didn't think it bowed so much. But after looking at the map and what you said, I saw that too, and you're like, don't do anything until the meeting. So I know that alone is 7. And then there's one,
Those 7 are they're probably 4 to 6 inches.
Yeah,
tops.
well, that's what, I only want to know how many trees 4 inches or larger in
Oh,
diameter.
These are the trees
I would say
going up.
I mean, without getting all the way in there, if this is the end-all be-all, I would go a little higher just in case. So I would probably say 7. And actually, I should take back what I said, because the 5 you said that we could cut down now were outside of the 100, so those shouldn't
Next
count
to
at
the
all.
house.
I would say 7 if I had, now are you talking about trees that are still standing that are over 4 inches, or are you talking about trees that have already fallen?
I'm presuming that everything you want to take down is either dead or dying.
I don't want to take down any live trees at all, because it's our only division to that horse farm. So
Yeah.
I want a little bit of division, and I think Kevin, the contractor, when he was really putting in this subdivision road and stuff, wanted to keep a little bit, but I want to take away the dead and dying, and I want to just we want to clear up the brush and some of that poison ivy and just some of that vines that's on the floor, so I'd say 7.
I think when we were out there, the commissioners that were at the visit felt that this was doable, but not going beyond the 50 feet mark closest. So between 50 and 100, that area.
The markers are 75, right?
Yeah, the markers are at 75.
Well, we were wanting to go a little into the 75 for that one the big ash tree,
Yeah, that's okay, I'm saying,
but nothing within
Nothing
50
no.
or 0 to
Even
50.
really anything beyond,
nothing beyond the 75 foot?
well, 75 between.
Set between 75 and 100.
Is where the majority of them are.
Yeah.
There's a few
Right.
within the
And
75.
Right. But that ash tree is about maybe 60 feet instead of 75. So it's within the 75 by,
Was the ash tree the one that's leaning away from your house, though?
no, that's.
It's standing straight up. The
Okay.
ash tree that Jason, the arborist, when he came out, it's still standing straight up.
Yeah, the ash tree I don't
I
really
think
care about.
That could be the one exception.
And that one actually did
Yeah.
get a few leaves on it. I was surprised.
There were
This
some
pine tree is
cherries
actually
in-
very healthy.
Really
We
bad
just want to
shape.
remove the vines off of it before.
Its
it
days are numbered.
But anything, basically from the ash tree up to the house, like these right here is what we were concerned about. Anything
Okay.
down here,
Yeah.
not
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
No, that's all like 75 to 100. You know, at first, when I saw the property, I was like, oh, it looks, so ugly and this and that, and I wanted to like go crazy. And then after reading a bunch of literature and all the information on the importance of the wetlands and stuff, I too don't really want to do anything at all from 50 down all the way to 25 foot and so forth. And I had a couple questions as well. I heard another presenter say something about a 25-foot no mow. Is that for all conservation land? So anything within 25 feet, we can't even mow at all on our property? Or are we allowed to
Well-
mow until it starts getting lots of brush?
There's no 25-foot disturb zone. That's not really what you're talking about. Maintenance, if there's already grass somewhere, you can cut within 25 feet. It's normal maintenance.
And what about mulch? Because some of these trees, if we do get permission to take down, we may want to mulch those trees and just keep that back, keep that in that area. Are we allowed to put mulch and
If that's
grass
what
seed
you
and
want
stuff
to,
down there?
if that's what you want to ask for, sure. So I think, someone can correct me here, but I think what we could allow is for all the dead trees between 75 feet and 100 feet to be removed. One tree that's approximately 60 feet that's dead can be removed. And in that area, you can mulch it and hopefully replace the trees that were taken down larger than 4 inches with at least 2 other native trees or brush or bushes. We'll
Yes,
provide you
we have
with
every
a list.
intention to put some bushes and some shrubs, blueberry trees, some wallflowers. We'd
Would
like
that
to
be acceptable?
Eventually leading to, yes, it would, it'd be great, thank you.
So do we know that there's only one tree within the 75
Yes.
and 50 that has to come down?
Yes,
It-
it's that ash.
It's the ash.
And I will say, if you're standing right in front of that ash, looking straight all the way behind that ash on the property line where those big
No.
rocks,
I didn't see one there.
it is within the 75? Okay. It looked like it wasn't.
So that's acceptable.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so commissioners, I passed out a proposed removal of dead trees policy based on some other policies from other towns. But, you know, again, this is an RDA, so we have to justify it. So I'm proposing that we issue a negative determination on number 3, again, similar to the one we previously did. And the reason why these dead or dying trees pose a safety risk, because they are falling, or others nearby have already fallen, so they're a risk to the home or the occupants. And also, the trees are all dead and/or falling down or in the process of dying. And so,
Just in case you're not familiar with our terminology, negative actually works in your favor.
yes. So the conditions we'd put on the permit is leaving the stumps in place, restricting heavy equipment use, and require mitigation plantings, as I say, a 2-to-1 ratio. And I
Of native
think that
trees,
we can
yeah.
justify that to Mass DEP.
Okay.
Any questions on that? So I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination under option 3. The work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to jurisdiction under the act. And the work does not require the filing of a notice of intent subject to the following conditions, which are the 3 that I mentioned. No heavy equipment use, leaving the stumps in place, requiring mitigation plantings, and also allowing mulching at the site.
Can you clarify that last piece, Mike? Allowing mulching?
What do you mean by
what-
mulching?
Yeah, I'd like to understand that a little better as well.
So if you take the tree and then you
Chip
just
it, maybe
Chip
chip
it.
it
meant
up
to
and
say.
then shoot it into the area where it used to live, it covers the area and then revitalizes the soil.
Okay, because you don't need to mulch trees. Like,
Okay.
is that what you're thinking about doing, putting mulch around
Well,
the
I was
trees?
just thinking in,
Not
yeah,
bringing it in, just using
Okay.
the existing tree to send it back to the same area.
In other
You're
words,
changing the elevation.
in other
though.
words, they're not gonna plant grass there that they're gonna have to mow.
Okay,
I mean, I would
But we
like
don't
to,
have to
I
do
would
that.
like to plant some grass seed up a little bit, just, am I allowed to clear some of this brush? There's a lot of just like tumbleweed looking vines and stuff coming out. I just wanted to at least be able to kind of get around the house with the riding lawnmower and stuff. Are we able to clear back a little bit of this brush? Because there is a lot of poison ivy and stuff coming in and like thorn bush vines. So if we are able to clear some of that back a little bit, where we
like you
clear
want to
some
be able to
of
get a
that.
little mower around around the corner of your house?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in some of that area, just in front of the trees, just cleaning it up in general, not getting way into there or anything, just at the edge of the yard. I'd like to kind of clean it up a little bit so it looks nice.
Oh, we don't have to chip up the trees, we can just.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I didn't know if we.
I don't mind that, there's this trend of people mulching up around trees, and you
Oh, yeah,
absolutely should
that's-
not be doing that, but
That's different, I
it's
think.
bad for the tree, that's all.
Okay.
But I'd like the idea of leaving dead wood in there, because it's important for the ecosystem to have dead wood, so, I don't, I mean, it'd be nice to leave big, tall stumps, but I don't think you want to do that, so I don't have a problem with putting the mulch back in there, I guess.
Now, any of the trees that have fallen, if they are within the 75 to 25, are we allowed to take any of those down that are like suspended, hanging? There's, if you notice, there's like, I don't mind if it's already laying on the ground, but some of these that are suspended, every time we have bad weather, I'm seeing they're hanging in there, and they're leaning on the good trees. A lot of these big heavy branches and stuff that are broken.
Well, that's kind of going beyond what we already
Okay.
said.
Okay,
So you will not be allowed, according to what we're saying, to do any work beyond taking that one tree at 60 feet down.
okay,
You can't do anything further, closer down the hill towards the actual BVW in that buffer zone.
The granite markers are the extent.
Yes.
Except for
Except for that
ash.
tree, right?
Yeah.
Except for
Yeah.
I
that
think
one
if you
dead
look at
ash.
it that way,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
you know, if you,
Because all of those dead trees serve a purpose.
if you string a line from each of those markers to the next one, think of that as the area you can work, leaving live trees, because I think there's 2 maples there that we particularly thought we wanted to make sure they stayed. But I would think dead, and then the invasive vines, those can go. And
Poison ivy, by the way, is not invasive. It's a native, and it's also important in the ecosystem. So if it's not near your house or where you're going to be playing, I would leave it.
So by leaving those dead trees there, you know, that's part of what we've got in here, that, you know, DEP likes to leave standing dead trees valuable for wildlife.
If they're not endangering your house.
Okay, did I make a motion? Yes.
you made a
And
motion,
who seconded?
nobody yet.
I'll second. Yeah. Doesn't
Any
matter.
questions on the
Native.
motion?
Native.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Did you need the newspaper article from my file?
You need that?
What?
The newspaper article?
Oh, yes.
From my
sure.
file?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
Congratulations on your
So
new
we'll
house.
send you documentation in the mail within a week or two.
Okay,
Yep.
so just wait before we do anything
Yes.
until we
Yeah,
officially
yeah.
receive
Yes.
that, and
Yeah.
then we can start. Okay, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Terry's back. Okay. Next, we have
What?
a
Peace out.
GRDA only for 172 King Street for a proposed fence. And I'll make a motion to open the hearing on this.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
We keeping you up?
So, Commissioners, this is a GRDA only because it meets one of DEP's exemptions for minor activities under the Wetlands Protection Act, and that is fencing. So that's why this is not an RDA, it's only a GRDA.
Do you think I will need the mic?
Yes, you have to use the mic.
Not a problem. So I'm Justin Guimon, 172 King Street. We're proposing to put in about 500 feet of perimeter fencing, mainly for privacy, but also a few safety issues. So for the privacy issues, that would be the part of my driveway that runs parallel to my neighbor at 176 King Street, but also the privacy that we do not have currently right now that allows the road access to walkers and or cars to see about 70% of our backyard. The proposal or the diagram that we put together was done by one of the estimations from a fencing company. So you'll see is there's an area that's the optional fencing. Again, that's the piece that's going to run parallel to my neighbor on the right-hand side. That is outside the jurisdiction by quite a bit, but I am putting that in there just because that's going to be part of the total package. That will be a 6-foot vinyl fence, white vinyl, and then where the upside-down L meets the back right corner of my house is approximately about 85 feet, including a 10-foot gate. That would be also outside of the jurisdiction area. That runs parallel to the bottom of my driveway. So if a few of you have done some site visits to my property, if you recall, the bottom of the driveway that leads up to the top of the backyard is supported by a natural retaining wall of large boulders. So that's part of the reason why we're putting the fence there, is to protect my 1.5-year-old from walking off that retaining wall. And then also the other safety issue is keeping my 10-pound dog from deciding to run out to the street to meet neighbors. It's kind of become a redundant issue, so we're trying to shore up our backyard there. The piece of vinyl that will be approximately maybe 18 to 20 feet on the left-hand side of the house is really the only section that will be vinyl there, and also 6 feet in height. And the majority of that length will be the gate, so I will have access to both the backyard from the right and left-hand side. The remaining part of the fence will run only in the grassed area of the backyard. There will be no intrusion into any of the brush areas, the woods. Again, this is really just to close off the grassed area of our backyard. And that will all be 4-foot chain link fence. So to allow any existing wildlife to pass through fairly easily. I kind of wanted it to go higher, to be honest, to maybe deter coyotes from getting after my small dog as well. But I just didn't really think that it was necessary. I thought it was maybe a little bit overkill in terms of also blocking our view. But we also have a lot of deer that pass through our backyard, and I didn't want to create any issues for them. So I think that by keeping it at 4 feet, it'll still make it very passable for them. That's really it. You can see the dimensions again that were proposed to us, that you'll see really just, again, runs all along the grassed area. I had a survey done recently as well by Plastow Consultants to make sure that where our property lines were readily flagged, because we did have a little bit of vague markings on the left-hand perimeter of the property, because a lot of the left-hand perimeter of our property is in the wetlands. So I don't know if there were ever really any hard existing markings that were ever done there, so we wanted to be safe. And then also to make sure that we were extending courtesy to our neighbor on the right-hand side, to making sure that we were not overstepping our boundaries there. The contractor to do the fencing work is J. Andrews Company. I don't know if that means anything, but that's it.
Was there any effort to come up with a design that would be at least 25 feet from the buffer, from the wetlands?
So I assume you were insinuating about the left-hand side? That's the closest?
21.45, 17.41, 22.98.
Right, so that's the section of the property that sits the closest to the wetlands, but those dimensions, again, were mainly done so that the left-hand side of the house would actually be able to be closed off and run parallel to the grass line. So even though that diagram is showing that it's 21 and 17 feet, give or take, that's really not the area that has the overgrowth. So the fence will not sit in anything that has brush, ivy, thorns, or any type of tree lining, because after about 10 feet beyond the grass line is where you start to see the wetland activity, where it's not, it's...
Well, it doesn't really answer my question. was there ever an attempt, I'm going to ask it again, to keep it more than 25 feet from the wetlands to stay out of the no disturb zone?
We have a 25-foot no disturb zone regulation.
No, not really, because it wouldn't make sense to the way that the backyard is laid out, to be honest with you. The fence would be then just cutting into the middle of the grass.
It doesn't look like it would cut that much. It'd mean moving it in roughly 7.5 feet in that far corner, that northeast corner, and moving it in 3 feet closest to the road, and moving it in 2 feet. That doesn't seem like a real deviation from what you have here.
Sure, no, I agree with that. I mean, again, it was just more or less when, I mean, they came in to do the estimates, it was really more just instructing them just to basically keep it along the grass line, or just, I don't think there was any, I don't know, I guess.
All right, it sounds like they didn't take that into consideration. So, I mean, I would be much more receptive to something that stayed 25 feet out. And I don't think it reduces the square footage all that much. It just makes it easier for us to defend our 25-foot no disturb. I mean, the whole point of no disturb is no disturb. And these meetings are recorded, and anybody else who wants to do stuff 20 feet from the wetlands can come in and say, oh, well, you let them put a fence in. And I just don't think it would be a huge hardship to move 3.5 feet in, 7.5 feet in, 2.5 feet in, no,
I
2
think it's
feet in.
easier than that. You move the back line up however many feet, right? Because if you take that, the 95.51, right? If you move that line closer to the house, you're going to gain on both sides, both corners, right?
Right, but I'm saying you don't need to do that.
I,
You give up, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure you want to maximize the amount of space you have there. And just moving it in parallel is not going to maximize the amount of space while still achieving 25 feet from the.
well,
I mean, he has to move
cutting
both-
corners to make.
These are not 90-degree angles.
understand.
We're not setting up a Midwestern city here. There's stuff going all over the place. And all I'm saying is, pull this guy here, pull this guy here, and pull this guy here. And I'm much happier about the situation.
So basically, we would say in our permit to keep the fence posts out of the 25-foot.
I think we'd want to see new plans.
But
We-
also, do we care about, I mean, it's not next to a pond, it's just next to a wetland, but remember the last time we had a fence that was so adjacent, surrounded completely by wetland?
That truly cut off passage, though, to the neighboring property. This would still allow
To be able to get
passage
around?
around. Yeah,
I mean,
especially with
deer
a
are not gonna be
25
hanging out in his
foot
backyard,
buffer.
but turtles I'm worried about.
I know. They'll bump up against the fence and just bump their
Keep
way
going, you
around.
think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, none of the fences is going to be in the wooded area at all. I mean, this is just not even necessary
Just
for us
worry about
to.
the wildlife that care about wetlands, like turtles, for example.
But they use the buffers, too. That's part of
I,
why.
I understand, yeah. I mean, if I need to move it a few, on the right, left-hand side, I mean, if we need to move it in a little bit, that's fine. It wasn't really about to try to squeeze every foot. It just was more to just follow the grass line that's currently there. We'd be happy if we moved it a few feet over, then, so be it. I mean, that grass will just become brush. I mean, it's not the end of the
Yeah,
world.
and the purpose of the 25-foot no disturb is to leave as much habitat as possible for the critters that are living in the wetlands there. And they don't like grass as much as they like small brush,
Native
stuff like that.
plants.
So, anyway, that's how I feel about it. Recuse me from a couple hearings, and I come in
Come in
hot.
Yeah.
But I'll just say one other thing too, where they also kind of mapped it out, when I kind of gave them ideas of where I wanted the chain link fence to be, that also was following the erosion controls that were put in by my predecessor. So I made sure that to tell him that, you're going to have to be in the inside of this, and that's where I kind of,
Oh, you still have erosion controls in place?
I left it there.
That's not a bad thing. We thank you.
There's just no reason to remove it. I mean, it's majority of it's so close to the brush where, again, I was going to keep the fence on the inside of that. It's just, I mean, it's not bothering
It's not-
anything.
Okay.
This can provide
remember what
organic
the-
matter as it
Is it
decomposes.
decaying? It's not plastic. I can't remember what it was.
They used wooden stakes. Most of them are still in good
Oh,
shape.
with-
Yeah.
Probably
Hay bales.
is.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
Yeah.
wattles.
How will the post holes be dug?
I'm not entirely sure, but I know they're going to be going about 2.5 to 3 feet
No,
deep.
I'm saying, are they gonna be dug manually or?
Oh, yeah, they'll have to. I mean, just because predominantly I made them aware of where my septic and leaching fields are, I think it would be very challenging for anybody to get. I mean, I couldn't even imagine trying to get more than a bobcat to circle the back right-hand side of the property to make it over there. And they wouldn't even be able to do it on the left-hand side because even though that existing repurposed highway asphalt's still there, that's too severe of a slope. They wouldn't even be able to get a truck there. So I got to imagine it, at the very least, they could probably do some machinery on the right-hand side of the property where the driveway is, but I don't think they could.
Yeah, well, you could use a hand auger,
Right.
So commissioners, are we requiring ground clearance on the bottom of the fence?
So that's what we were talking about.
How much? 4 inches?
Is it 4 or 6?
We did 6 on the guy next to the pond. Because he's next to a pond.
You also have a 10-pound dog.
Right.
That could probably fit under a 6-inch gap.
Pretty
Right.
close. She can lay flat pretty good. But I mean, but she's not. I mean, she's not that kind of adventurous. I'd say that would only come into play on the vinyl section that is outside of the buffer by probably about 25 feet, and we're probably going to have to block off a bit of the at the base for her because of the fact that part of the elevation that dips down and then comes back up the hill towards 176, that's going to probably create a natural gap there for her. So we were already kind of talking to them about how we could close it naturally. But I mean, if you wanted me to lift the chain link, the 4 or 6 inches, I mean, I don't.
Should we say 4 inches?
4 inches, yeah.
4 inches?
Okay.
Yeah, 4 is probably good.
I don't think that would be a problem.
Provides ground-dwelling critters access.
Somebody want to make a motion on this?
Well, but have we decided on the keeping it out of 25 feet?
Do we need to see new plans? I thought Terry wanted to see new
I
plans.
don't think so.
Terry wanted to see new plans.
I would like to see.
I kind of want to see a new plan also.
No, we can have a pre-construction meeting and see where it's marked. I mean, a plan like this, I mean, unless you're actually out there looking at it anyway, this is,
But we would have
rough.
something on paper.
Hmm?
We would have something on paper that it's outside
yeah, but,
of our
but look, you could take
25-foot
this,
no buffer regulation.
you
It's a
could take
regulation.
this and scratch out the number and put 25 feet there. Unless you go out and look at it and measure it, you're really not gonna know for sure that it's being done the way we want. So that's what I wanna do, is I
So you want
wanna
a
see.
pre-construction meeting where we say,
Yeah, there should be
here's this
stakes in
corner,
the
here's this
ground.
corner, here's this corner.
Right, exactly.
Anything outside of our jurisdiction, do whatever you want.
Pre-con meeting to confirm fence placement
Post.
outside of,
corner.
fence placement outside of 25 foot.
With the 4-inch clearance.
Hmm.
With the 4-inch clearance for the
Yeah,
fence.
well, that's after they put the fence in. All right, somebody want to make a motion on this?
So one more question.
Yeah,
So, if we're gonna require the 4-inch clearance, are we gonna require that right along the front or just the sides and the back?
Well, it's.
I mean, 'cause you said you had that drop.
Anything that's not in the buffer zone.
We have no
outside of-
jurisdiction.
Yeah, no jurisdiction, so.
They don't-
So only the parts that run parallel to where the wetland buffer is.
However, almost the whole thing's within 100.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Tell by this map.
you know, there's a little,
This is-
this corner over here is outside of our jurisdiction, and that's about it.
Right.
So 6 times this,
Plus, why would you want varying levels of clearance? You're just gonna want one level of clearance.
anyway, if it's outside of our jurisdiction, it's outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
Right. It's up to him to decide what he wants to do in those areas. All right, so is there a motion?
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's okay, just go.
Well, so my question was, because I had to put a deposit down on this and actually put a schedule out there, how soon will be the site visit? I mean, he's scheduled to start May 19th. I really didn't think
Ooh,
it
that's soon.
was gonna be much of an issue here.
That's next Monday, right?
Oh, you have to, like, for pre-construction, you mean? For a pre-construction meeting? Is that what?
I mean, I can delay him, but, I mean, it's the summer months here, we're trying to get the ball rolling. But, I mean, I can talk to him, I just,
Does the builder need to be at the pre-construction meeting, right?
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
can you get him there I'll go on a Saturday.
I'll talk to him, I don't know what his schedule is
Saturday's the
like.
17th?
Yeah.
And he's due to start on Monday?
I mean, we don't want a pre-construction meeting when he's already started.
No. So if you're willing to go and,
I'm willing
you
to go
know,
on Saturday.
see where the stakes are, then that's
Yep, yep.
fine.
Yep.
And just fill out a form. I'll send you a pre-construction meeting form.
Okay.
That's okay, because they're not gonna actually start the work. We'll issue the permit pretty quickly on this.
Well, you're talking next Monday.
Yeah.
That's the start.
Today's only Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
I'll make a motion to approve the project and issue orders of condition under a notice of intent, Groveland notice of intent, correction, at 172 King Street for a fence that will be completely outside of the 25-foot buffer with a 4-inch clearance on the bottom in jurisdictional areas.
Is it a notice of intent or a GRDA?
It's a Groveland notice of intent.
Okay.
So we just need to issue a orders of condition, local orders of condition.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, but it's marked as a GRDA.
Hmm.
It's marked as a GRDA.
Where does it say that?
Right there, GRDA.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is a GRDA.
Okay. So
Thank
friendly
you.
amendment.
Yes.
GRDA.
I withdraw that motion and instead will do this under negative determination, option number 3, work described in the request is within the buffer zone, but will not alter an area subject to jurisdiction under the act with same conditions as mentioned, all fencing outside the 25-foot buffer and a 4-inch clearance on the bottom.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Saturday,
Terry,
Yeah, I'll give you a number.
okay.
All right, 978.
Yeah, Mike is on.
Where's Rebecca here?
You're gonna find out.
This is the culvert?
You mean the dam? It's a dam.
That's what a fish is.
Thank you, Justin.
All right.
Just let me know. And we'll-
You know, your mic is on.
Just a GI, that's why I got confused.
It's right there, it's green.
He should be there to know what he's supposed to be doing.
Okay, next is an RDA, GRDA for 268 Washington Street, tree removal project. Thanks. And I'll make a motion to open the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So, we went
Is
out
that
and
mic working?
visited this.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Hi, Mike. So my name's David Tucker. I live at 268 Washington Street. I think several of you were at my house last week to look at the 21 trees that we're looking at trying to remove that are dead, and many of them threaten existing structures that we have there, garage, greenhouse, and whatnot. The 21 trees were all marked in orange. Thought we were all under the determination that those were, satisfactory for us to move ahead and remove.
Especially since you said you were gonna be replanting some trees.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, you weren't there.
I'm sorry.
He was there.
Yep.
I was not.
I was thinking about making a motion.
Yes, do it. Do it.
I make a motion, is this a negative determination now?
I
Yep,
think
Yeah.
is your mic? on?
By
Number
using condition
3.
3.
Under condition 3, negative determination, 268 Washington Street, to cut down a bunch of dead and dying trees that represent a danger to man and building, with replanting of more appropriate trees,
Native trees.
native trees. Those are more appropriate.
And that's at a 2-to-1 ratio as well?
2-to-1 ratio, sure.
2-to-1.
You're eager to plant stuff, right? Good stuff?
need something to soak up all that water.
Exactly.
Good luck with that.
It'll help.
Plant more often.
Any other conditions on your
On
motion?
my motion, are you hinting at something?
No,
Oh, no, I have no other conditions.
do you want to have the stumps remain in place?
Oh, yes, I would like the stumps to remain in place.
If you can, sometimes if you can leave them tall, it helps too, just for
Yeah.
habitat reasons. If it's in an appropriate spot.
I mean, this one is similar to the 9 Katy Lane one, same kind of conditions on this one.
Okay.
Dead and dying.
Yes, those trees were definitely dead.
Yes, it's a shame.
I mean, in this case, there's more trees to remove and larger ones, but they clearly need to be removed.
So, and then, who did you say Collins was?
Collins, yeah. You talk about keeping the stumps, though. Some of the areas where I like to replant the trees is going to make it difficult if I don't remove the stumps. Like that cluster of the 3 that we looked at, where one of them had already fallen. I'd like to plant more trees in that area, but if I don't get rid of and excavate out what's there, it's going to make it
Well,
very difficult to plant new ones.
Stumps can be very vital habitat for a lot of wildlife. So when possible, I think it would be
Yeah,
nice
I
to be able
think-
to leave them.
I think it's more of a when possible.
Okay.
If it isn't going to conflict with what you want to plant,
Yeah, if you can move your planting area 10 feet and leave the stump, then
Okay.
Because they do break down over time, so.
Okay. That's fine.
so, did you get a second?
I don't think I did.
Second,
if I asked the.
He does all the work.
Yeah, I was asking so that I could second.
Jump in and take the glory.
That's,
Boy.
That's right, the glory of the second.
let me write that one down.
Keeping
This
score.
won't go unremembered.
All right, any questions on the motion?
No.
We're all with it?
So we're gonna send them the list of natives?
Yeah.
You
we'll
kept
do
saying
With
that.
all the permits with
Okay,
trees that are
good.
involved.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thanks for waiting. That was a long time.
Yes,
Goodness.
waiting.
Some people have waited even longer.
That's the stream
Yeah.
that feeds out of here.
This is a,
That's a very healthy way to look at it.
Okay, let's see, we're on
One part of big city filled with-
number 7, Salem Street culvert discussion.
We have a quick
Sorry?
presentation. Yeah, make sure you guys, can
Did
everybody see
somebody
this
bring
here?
that and forget it, or is it ours?
When did
Hurry,
they put water in there?
Is this, you can see that?
I know.
Right.
I can see fine.
No, I just want to make sure I'm not in the way. So, obviously, we were on the,
Use,
agenda here.
use that mic because otherwise it doesn't pick up on.
So, yeah, all right. So obviously, I don't know if I've met everybody formally, but I've spoken in front of you. My name's Arthur Marcos. I'm the Projects and Programs Manager under the Highway Department. And one of my projects is the issue we're having over here at the Johnson Creek Dam. And I think today I want to kind of give some general information. I think there's a lot of misinformation around town on what this is and how it was became a dam and what its purpose serves. I'm sure that anybody in town probably drives over this thing multiple times a day and does not know really what it is. So we have an emergency situation, and also an emergency situation where we have attached today. We'll also be speaking dam experts from GZA Consultants. We'll be speaking about the condition of the dam too. So obviously, I think on the agenda it said Salem Street culvert. It's not a culvert in any sense. I guess there's some culvert element to it where there's a pipe underneath the dam, but it technically is a dam. So here's, just so you know, the location of it. That's Salem Street near Hales Court. I'm sure you've driven over it. It impounds what we call, what once was Johnson Creek, I'm assuming, and now has become Meadow Pond? Meadow Pond. And that is also attached to the bigger pond, that's Johnson's Pond, which is obviously heavily used for recreation next to VZ Park. So the next slide. So what I want to kind of bring to the attention is a lot of people might not know what this dam is and the structure is, and it kind of will kind of set the record straight on what it is, and not only here but to the public. So the facts, and maybe I've only been here for a short time, so you might actually know more information than I do. But I did a lot of research and a lot of reports. So first of all, this dam was constructed in 1913, so it makes it 110, 20 years old. But it was re-renovated in the 1950s. The dam impounds Lower Pond and is one of a series of dams along Johnson Creek, which eventually becomes a tributary to the Merrimack River. And the original purpose of this was to impound the Lower Pond for the use of a mill. So it was put in for, obviously, the town has history of mills. Currently, the dam is now used for recreational purposes and provides some, not much, flood control during severe storms. So obviously, there's no rushing water downstream. The existing impoundment is an earth embankment. So I'll explain to you a little bit what that means, which is a 4.5 foot span of masonry on each side of the road, and then the actual dam is the actual road, is the actual earthen embankment of what of what you call a dam, and then there's also a wear control that has stop lugs in it. So basically, it's almost like an overflow, and it took me a while to look and make sure to figure out how this works myself when I first started here. So basically, what happens is the water rises, and when it does rise, it goes over the overflow and goes down and flows through a culvert pipe, a 5-foot high culvert pipe, 80-foot long, goes in and goes downstream side. So that's how it works. Next one. So we've had structural deficiencies in this dam. Obviously, if you've heard about it, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, in 2023, they had the whole roadside collapsing. The dam is classified by the Department of Conservation and Recreation's Office of Dam Safety as a significant hazard, and it requires an inspection every 6 months. So the dam was found to be in poor condition overall, and observed deficiencies concerning in our most recent Phase 1 inspection evaluation, and those happen every 6 months. So there's a 5-foot diameter corrugated metal pipe underneath the road. That pipe has corroded on the bottom of it and is now collapsing, so it's falling. So back in 2023, there was a 7.5-inch gap from the top of the pipe and then to where there was masonry. Now it's over 2 years, it's 10.5-inch gap. So it's getting worse and worse. And now the corrugated metal pipe, that's not only here, that's across this whole region. What happens is that the water is naturally it's naturally acidic with all that nutrient material, and it actually just eats out the bottom of these corrugated pipes. I've been involved in projects, not in this town, but other towns where culverts have collapsed, because back this was a good material back in the 50s and 60s. It was probably cheaper than putting concrete in, but it's seeing its life, and that's what we're dealing with. There's also a current crack in the roadway, on the top of the roadway, 28-foot long, and you can see that if you drive by right near the sidewalk. There's a recently discovered bulge on one side of the masonry wall. I'll show you that. And then there's also something to be concerned about is also that there's a natural gas and water main going right through that road. So anything ever happens to that dam, I don't know about thousands, maybe hundreds will probably be impacted by not having fresh water or natural gas to the house. So the next one, not to be an alarmist, but this is what happened in 2023. So I was not here for that, but obviously our highway department ended up fixing the solution. But this is what you actually see in 2023, where we had the big collapsed sinkhole at the sidewalk, and then you can see that's that corrugated pipe, and you see that giant gap there. So what actually was a series of events that happened in 2023, you go to the next one. So there was a sinkhole, someone reported that was a sinkhole on the sidewalk for the first time on 426. They went and fixed it, they filled it, and then they got another call the third time, and again there was another sinkhole, and then by the fourth time they went in and they said, you know what, we're not filling this with regular material, we're going to use flowable fill, which is basically a dry cement. And they filled it, and now since then it has been stabilized. So I have the next slide. So we had a consultant. They went out and actually took a infrared of the subsurface, and as you can see here, and I know if this is a day where I feel like a meteorologist. Over here is the gaps. That means there's gaps. So what happens is the material went down into that culvert pipe and got washed out, and now we have voids in the road. So these voids are only going to get worse if that pipe is not addressed. So this is actually a zoomed-in shot of the plans. Actually, you can see the gas main here, water main here on top. So this is the top of the road. If you're looking at the top of it, the impoundment is on this side, and this is the downstream side. And this is where the bulge is starting to emerge. That means there's pressure coming off the dam. We go to the next slide. So this is actually current situation. So in 2023, we fixed what we thought we can stabilize it. At this point, there's that 28-foot long crack, and this is that wall that's actually bulging. It's hard to see through the picture, but if you go out there, you can see it. It's starting to bulge. and that only can get worse, I guess. It's not going to get better. Obviously, a lot of rains and saturated ground and soils make it worse. So that's why, I'm just trying to give you the current situation of what it exists. We also have some plans on how to repair the situation. So, and actually this meeting is kind of a precursor because we'll also be coming for an emergency order. I think at the next meeting, we are working with GZA to actually, there's a consultant that's going to actually help us. So we've actually lined up now a contractor where we put in the structural lining of that culvert pipe to stabilize it, cast in place concrete, well, plastic, it'll give you a 30-year life if you want to keep it in there if we had to. But that will buy us time to stabilize it. And also, we'll have to buttress the masonry wall, where we'd have to actually put in a large amount of stone against the wall to stabilize it so it doesn't collapse. Obviously, a collapse would be a huge disaster. The road would be closed and cost us just to temporary repair it. And I'm not going to exaggerate, it'll be at least millions of dollars for a temporary repair just to have that road be passable. And I'm not saying this as an alarmist. I've been involved in projects like this where you had to do a temporary repair and then you had to do a full repair. And then all that has to be expedited and done in a fast way to get, just even basic emergency access. So that's our temporary emergency repair that we're going to come through within next month. And then our permanent repair would be repairing the dam and stabilizing it and maybe a new dam or dam removal. And that's going to be a conversation that we have in the future. As you can see, that would take 3 to 5 years to actually do that. And we've been in contact with all these government agencies, more than I've ever thought I would have to actually deal with on one project, but these are it. You have Department of Environmental Protection, obviously DEP, Natural Heritage, Division of Ecology Restoration, Dam and Seawall Repair, which actually is one we're working with very closely. Army Corps of Engineers, we have to be involved. The MVPC, we have to be involved. And the Merrimack River Watershed Council. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple there because there's much more projects. So I just wanted to give that kind of brief overview. I'm by far not an expert in dams. I have some technical knowledge, but we do have our consultant, GZA, Derek in particular, and Adrian, who does a lot of permitting, and I want them to speak and give us more of a detailed analysis of what's going on out there in the process. So I'll hand it over to them.
Hey, did anyone want to ask Arthur a question?
Yes.
Yeah?
That's me, yeah. That's it. Thanks, Derek.
Questions?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you have an actual letter from the Office of Dam Safety declaring this an emergency?
You do not, right, Arthur?
No, we do not. This is like, ongoing in progress right now. Eventually, maybe there will be, but we don't have one at hand right now. We're just trying to give you this basic knowledge, let people know that what's happening in town. I think, it's everyone's obligation to know this process. So
Because the dam has been under significant hazard for probably at least 20 years.
But has the pipe been collapsing as
I'm
for
not
20
saying
years?
what's
Yeah.
happening now isn't happening
Yeah.
or that it's not a potential emergency, but I'm just surprised, frankly, that the state isn't willing to call it what it is, an emergency.
That there's 3,000 dams in the state, and the Office of Dam Safety has a hard time keeping track of the particulars of each and every dam. But we're here as consultants to say we agree. I think we believe this work should be done in an expedited emergency manner. That pipe should be slip lined and stabilized so that it doesn't deteriorate and collapse even further, and the road sinks in and water can no longer pass through the dam, and water starts passing over the road in the dam, and you get a big problem there. That's thing number one. Another thing that Arthur didn't get to was the stabilizing of that downstream wall. That wall is pretty precarious when you look at it. Like Arthur says, it has a slight bulge to it We already know there's been a lot of soil lost behind it. It could go at any given moment, or everybody could stay up for another 10 years, or it could go at any given moment. You just don't know. There are a lot of voids behind it. They have filled some in. Water does get in there. Water puts pressure on the backside of that wall. It could, without warning, go at any moment.
It would help us, to view it as an emergency if the state were willing to issue a letter saying it was an emergency.
Sorry, if I may, Rebecca Oldham, I'm the town administrator. So we have been in touch with the Office of Dam and Safety, and they said that they typically do not declare the dam an emergency situation under their guidelines and their thresholds unless the dam actually fails. And they recommended that we proceed with getting an emergency declaration from the Conservation Commission, because under the Wetland Protection Act, there is guidance in which the Conservation Commission can take premeditative actions to prevent that situation from happening. So under the laws, they had guided us to go through the Conservation Commission for an emergency order rather than to wait for an actual failure of the dam for them to actually declare it an emergency and take action. So there was definitely a conversation with the Office of Dam and Safety about doing so that we could escalate this to a level that would require immediate action and have the state involvement, but they referred us back to the Conservation Commission.
But we can only issue an emergency order for work. We can't declare an emergency on a dam.
Exactly, and there's no order of making it an emergency dam. There's only one that says that they have guidelines for a significantly hazardous dam, and they have different levels of classification under their dams to declare what level of hazard it is, and we're at the top. So they don't have an emergency dam order. They can just say this is an emergency situation or to classify it as an emergency situation, and like the Conservation Commission, ask us to move forward with repairing it and taking immediate action. There's no emergency status. It's you can do work. So we can either go through them if it fails, or we can go through the Conservation Commission before it fails in efforts to make sure that it doesn't get to that level of disaster. So I can get that in writing from the Office of Dam and Safety if you would like that, from Emily Caruso, who we've been working with, and they can cite the guidelines, and we can also cite the Wetland Protection Act in regards to an emergency order and the regulations that the Conservation Commission has before them.
It would help.
Consider it done.
So I had a question on, you were talking about all the voids underneath the road. Does this mean it's going to lead to restriction on weight going over that dam at any time?
Derek can speak on that a little more. He's definitely an expert. I don't know if you have a comment.
It's a little hard to quantify. There was a geophysical study that was performed, and you saw those dots on Arthur's slide. They've been down there. They did fill in to some degree, but it's hard to really quantify what's going on in a subsurface sense. If it were a structural I-beam or something, you could, more easily, quantify that. But with an earthen embankment like that, it's harder to tell. You just don't know.
We've spoken about that option of no, that might be one option of no trucks, and then even the worst option of no passage of any type of vehicles. Just only been in discussion, not that we were saying that would happen, but these are options. If you see it significantly get any worse, it's something we'd want to explore just for public safety.
Sure.
I don't think it's a weight issue necessarily. I mean, a young kid could be riding his bike down the street, and that side of the dam can suddenly let go. It probably will happen when there's no load going over. It'll just be more like the water pressure building up against the downstream face of the dam. And that's ultimately will probably fail the dam if it does.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So when someone's septic system is in danger of imminent failure, they come to the commission with a request for an emergency order of conditions. What's being requested here? I mean, I see recommendations here.
No, what we're requesting, we're kind of just giving you a precursor of that. We are requesting it in the next meeting. We will be. We're having a contractor under contract to line the pipe, but we want to call this meeting maybe preemptively to just say, this is what's going on.
This is truly just an update.
Well, I think it's in response to our enforcement order.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if there's anything we should be working.
No, yeah, then this is.
Just be prepared.
Prepare for the next time now. Well, I'm trying to set the stage and saying this is why we're doing it, because I don't want to have that conversation right before and then, answering these questions. We're trying to establish.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, so.
So I guess.
Arthur, this is Adrian from GZA. And so I do want to say that Arthur's done a lot of legwork related to preparing for the subcontractor or the contractor to do the pipelining. And I believe the town will be doing the buttressing themselves. And so the exact timing of when the work will be done is still being negotiated. But an emergency certification can be requested outside of a public hearing, as I'm sure you're all accustomed to. But given the scope and the scale of this work, the town wanted to share the information about what's being proposed with you all in an open hearing, to be very clear about that, so that when it's time to request the emergency certification, it's not a surprise. The work being proposed is well understood, and the commissioner or commissioners involved in issuing that emergency certification feel comfortable with the request being made, so that it can be issued in a timely manner. And then there's 30 days in which to do the work. And so the pond would need to be temporarily lowered so that the pipe is dry for the work to occur. The pipe would need to be lined, and then the pond brought back up, the buttress and berm, the riprap placed on the downstream end. That all has to happen in 30 days. So it's a bit of a tight fit to get the work done. And so that's part of being proactive and preemptive and coming to you all today, is to kind of prime that, so that once it is scheduled, which we expect to happen in the next few weeks, it can kind of all happen seamlessly. So that's tonight. We're not making a request for a certification, but we did want to let you know what's going on. And then, yes, we are also here to discuss the enforcement order.
And it's safe to it's safe to assume that what's going to be presented in a few weeks or the next couple months is going to be pretty close to what are in Section 7, Section 7 for the recommendations for the next steps.
From the follow-up inspection report you're referring to, I assume?
It's the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, and so you referred to Section 7, remedial repairs 1 and 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that'd be page 4 of the report.
Well, there's tree removal and stuff
Yeah.
prior to that. But yeah, it's just basically there won't be any huge surprises if we have a pretty good understanding of Section 7 recommendations.
That's
Maybe, there's going to be minor changes and more specific recommendations, but nothing, we shouldn't expect any, it's not likely there'll be any big surprises.
No, that's GZA's recommendation to stabilize this potentially very dangerous situation.
Okay.
What is your,
Small trees can go at a later time or whatever, and there are other things to do to the dam, but to prevent this dam from potentially collapsing at any moment, we recommend those 2 steps, lining the pipe and buttressing the downstream end.
So what I want to understand is, because I hear some hesitancy about making, if this board, this commission was to say it is an emergency and put that out there, what does that obligate this board? I mean, I'd like to understand that. Obviously, it sounds like the work has to be done after 30 days. That's an expense to the town right away.
Yeah, we've secured funding for this.
Okay, so that's,
So we've secured funding for this under our Chapter 90 funds, which are meant for road work. Because this is a dam and it's under a road, and we're working under a road to save a road, the state approved that. So we've secured funding for it. Actually, about $180,000 for this.
okay. And so this may be a discussion for the commission, but, you know, I'm like thinking, I don't want to wait until the state says, yep, it collapsed.
Yes.
Now you have to work that.
Yes, of
So,
course.
so we would be being proactive to declare it an emergency. But again, I'm curious as to what obligations then does that put on this board? Pro and con, I don't know.
We need to, excuse me, we need to, in order to issue an emergency order and declare it, be able to have the work declared as an emergency, there's at least a page full of discussion from DEP on what quantifies as work under an emergency order. So we have to justify whatever we put in there. You know, it's obviously, but we have to be able to justify it, you know? So that's on us. And that's why I say I prefer some documentation from the state dam safety office. You know, they don't want to declare it an emergency, but at least tell us what their normal procedures are in this type of situation, so we can include that in our
Okay, so Rebecca's going to
justification.
get that to us. And I
Yes.
think photographically, there's a problem.
Yes.
There has been a problem. And again, these are all, you know, just go out over into the public, they can watch these things. And, you know, we have to be concerned that we say, you know, that we take action when action is needed, not after failure. So I guess
Right.
that's what I'm trying to get.
I mean, again, you know, somebody comes in, like Terry said, and says, oh, gee, my septic system failed, it's an emergency, I need to get it fixed next week. DEP won't let us do that. You know, it's like, too bad, you got to file a notice of intent and start pumping. And it's the same thing with this, unless we justify it,
Okay.
you know, we've got to be able to meet what their requirements are, because, you know, 10 years ago, we thought we were doing the right thing, and somebody ended up getting fined because it wasn't an emergency, according to what DEP said.
Okay, so I appreciate the fact that you're coming in now, explaining the history and the potential downfalls that are, and pitfalls that are literally coming to us.
I think
so.
Adrian wants to speak.
Yes.
I did want to speak to that because I appreciate the Conservation Commission's thoughtfulness on this, that in the Wetlands Protection Act, right, there's a page under emergencies, 10.06. And so you're allowed to declare an emergency certification only for the protection of public health and safety. And so we're happy to articulate and in a letter or by, you know, backed up by the dam inspection report, that taking action to keep the dam from failing protects public health and safety by avoiding a gas main breach, avoiding a dam failure, avoiding an uncontrolled release of water that may damage downstream homes and natural resources. So we feel and could put in a letter to the Conservation Commission that taking proactive mitigation to avoid a dam breach or a dam failure is protecting public health and safety, and therefore meets the threshold of an emergency. The Office of Dam Safety, as Rebecca said, their definition of an emergency is like This is currently happening. The river is flowing over the road. That is an emergency. Action taken to avoid the emergency is not an emergency. So they have a very much more narrow definition, but the Wetlands Protection Act, their threshold is, allows for an emergency certification to be issued only for the protection of public health and safety, which this seems to clearly provide for.
But it can't be preemptive.
Under the Wetlands Protection Act, it is. You can avoid a bridge falling into a river.
Right.
But the Office of Dam Safety is not.
I guess I
So-
wouldn't call it preemptive. It's happening. There's photographic evidence of this is collapsing.
So this is slowly unfolding, so you can take out, this.
Yeah.
Oh, look, like Derek said, and we had a conversation a long time, it could last another 10 years, but it can last another 2 weeks. So like, no one can actually predict that. So I think it's in the best interest of the town to address the situation. And obviously, we are lining up contracts. We're working with experts in the field, with GZA. And we're trying to be preemptive, and also we're going to be filing. For, Adrian is actually an expert in permitting, and we actually have them on the contract to help us guide us through the permitting on this temporary fix, and then in the future permanent fix, which is going to have to be addressed. But it has to be not now.
Another question. I obviously not skilled at reading that plot of voids and stuff. Is there a way to tell if either the gas or the water lines are being distorted or?
Well, that's not. Well, the thing is, utilities, both of them are pressure lines. So, I mean, if it was a sewer line, you'd know because there'd be a sewer backup because it would, a belly would come up. So those lines, and they are in sand. Gas is in sand. Water is usually in sand. So there's a lot of flexibility with those. But they are rigid pipes too, so there's only so much they're going to bend also. But there is no indication of those pipes being in any danger but they're there. So if anything ever happens, and when they were digging last time, that was a concern about them too. That you're now digging within a gas main that might be under extra stress if it's collapsed.
What's your threshold for shutting down Salem Street?
I don't have that information. That would be a discussion with a lot of different departments, and everybody from fire to police to every department would have to be brought in. And obviously, Rebecca would have to.
What is like
issue that.
GZA? Is there a reason that we should be considering shutting down the street? And the reason I ask is, they've been carrying very heavy truckloads of fill and other building materials for the nearby apartment complex. I mean, that's a throughway for trucks anyway to get to the interstate.
Yeah, no, I understand. And unfortunately, it's a really tough thing to quantify. It could last 10 more years or it could go tomorrow night. It's hard to say.
Is there a way to measure?
Well, the one measurement I did pull, and I think it was in the report, like he said that how that pipe is collapsing. It went from,
I mean, that's pretty remarkable to look at.
Yeah, and see that and that separation in there, that's that gap. That's why the soil is kind of falling through there and coming out, leaving those voids. So that's only getting bigger. The pipe is only corroding more as the years go on. So it's not. This is this 120-year-old dam structure. So
yes, and I have some friends who live near there, so I'd like to make sure they're safe.
Yeah. So.
All right. So action items. Rebecca's getting us something. GZA is getting us something. We need to be poised and ready. What else?
Can I ask where in the emergency permit process any alternatives are assessed, like cofferdaming and dewatering instead of lowering the pond?
And I think that is going to be within the recommendation on us permitting and doing the project itself on how. Now you're talking about how it's going to be done, not we want to make sure it gets done, and how it's going to. I guess that's beyond the conversation. I don't know if Derek has anything on that.
If it would be helpful, if people have time, I do have a slideshow, and I wouldn't go through it all, but I could show you a slide on how I would propose to do the dewatering for the lining.
So to kind of address what Jill is asking, you know, we are requesting a notice of intent on this, even if it's after the fact. But certainly, you know, there's parts of this job that I know I'm uncomfortable with the methodology, and I think the commissioners are too.
In
But
what
just
way?
speaking for myself, you know, this idea of emptying the pond, I don't like that. So I think I would like to see some alternative analysis done as soon as possible, because that's going to make it a lot easier for us to approve it.
The work could be done. I mean, Arthur, what did you guys say it would take them about 3 days to do the lining?
Yeah, I mean, even less than that, once it's dry, they're ready to go, within a day and a half, they'll be done.
Yeah.
Are you
so-
emptying the pond or?
No,
Lowering
no.
the-
So by lowering it, say, 2 feet, we could lower it, say, 2 feet by removing some stop logs. And then, so the guys show up on site. You put the stop logs back in place, and the pond can continue to fill back up, but not spill into the pipe. And
You could have a 2 foot, you could have a 2 foot change in a 10-year storm, right?
So I actually met out with with the contractor and our highway foreman, Bill, and we were discussing things, and there is a possibility that he may, and we, like, it's something we have to discuss, but there's a possibility where he can bring in some steel plates and put them in the front of the spillway, so that can hold the water back while they work. So that has been discussed within the how per se.
But my point is, even lowering a couple feet isn't going to be any more traumatic than.
Well, look, I mean,
than the seasonal variation. The Merrimack
Right,
River is
it's
probably-
within a normal fluctuation of the pond. The
Exactly.
pond goes up and down seasonally, and we wouldn't be lowering it.
Yeah.
It's
Significantly.
a couple of feet, and it's for a few days.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the Merrimack right now is probably 8 feet higher than it is midsummer. There are fluctuations all the time. A couple feet, Mike, I don't think they're talking about draining the whole darn pond but lowering it a couple feet, for a few days, I don't think is gonna be any worse than, a storm that drops 5 inches in 3 days and raises the water level by 5 feet.
Well, but see, those aren't absolute numbers. 2 feet from when, you know? From where it is today or where it was 2 months ago? I don't know.
I mean, that's a conversation you're going to have to weigh, where it's, public safety or,
No, but there are other ways of doing it.
there's other ways, but there's also there's the time constraints of 30 days. There's things that the town, on a construction basis, that you're going to have to consider when you do a project like this. You can, yes, build a cofferdam. You can pump water over. They do this at culvert projects all the time. You pump the water over the walk and have a continuously run. You can do all this. Is that necessarily going to happen in 30 days? That's something we'll have to discuss. But there's, obviously financial constraints too. We have a certain budget. The more we use on this project, the less roads we're going to pave, the less projects we're going to do. It's just, so we're not saying we don't want to do it right, but there's going to be a negotiation on how this is going to be done in the most efficient way.
I'm not saying disagreeing with you, but what I'm saying is, I'd like to see some, again, justification for doing it this way. Again, we're hearing this, we get this report, oh yeah, that's the way it is. No justification that I see for not.
Justification for what?
Analysis that you would have to do with a notice of
Do you mean
intent.
lowering the volume of the of the pond?
Yeah, versus putting a cofferdam in, say. Like, which is the better way of doing it?
Yeah, I would say that in terms of lowering the pond, in terms of compliance with the performance standards for land under water bodies and waterways, because it's a temporary disturbance, right? We wouldn't be impairing the water carrying capacity of the bank or the land under water bodies and waterways. We wouldn't be meaningfully changing the wildlife habitat. Were a wildlife habitat evaluation done, any alterations would be found to be ameliorated within one growing season because of the short-term, approximately 3 to 5 day nature of the water fluctuation. So those would be all found as no change in a wildlife habitat evaluation. The physical stability of the bank would not be impaired due to water fluctuation. So this would be found, were we to write out a full NOI and submit it, we would find that this complies with the performance standards of land under water bodies and waterways and bank. It wouldn't be altering, fisheries habitat or wildlife habitat. In terms of the rare species, we are separately coordinating with Natural Heritage regarding that. It is a terrestrial species. It is a semi-aquatic terrestrial species, so thankfully it's mobile. It can adjust to the water surface elevation changes and can find where it needs to be. It breeds in an upland area, so we're not going to strand any nests or other breeding habitat based on the time of year. So we can provide other documentation in an NOI, but in terms of temporarily lowering the water elevation to 1 to 2 feet below the typical crest of the weir, the spillway weir elevation, it would not alter those resources. There are vegetated wetlands, obviously, associated with the pond. They would have a lower water elevation, but they would drain slowly because wetlands hold on to water. That's part of their job ecologically, is they're gonna hold onto the water and release it slowly from their soils. So they may have a really short duration alteration if it's noticeable at all, since the wetlands are closer to Uptack Road and there's no BVW down by the dam. We've done a delineation in support of other projects going on, and there's no BVWs right along Salem Street. So I think it's right to ask questions, but this type of project with this short of a duration, if I told you it was going to be weeks, I would be very concerned. Or throughout the summer, I'd be really worried about desiccated plants, changes to the wetlands, but 3 days, this is within what, wetlands and waterways are dynamic systems, and this type of short-term interruption is within what they typically withstand, particularly at this time of year, May, June. It's a volatile time of year to be a water body. So it's something.
So
to
Adrian,
consider.
maybe in the NOI, it would be helpful to say, constructing a cofferdam in lieu of lowering the pond would add X number of tens of thousands of dollars to the cost and delay implementation by Y number of days, and just.
Yeah, it would add cost and effort.
Terms.
Yeah, it would add cost and effort, and we would have to be really careful about making sure we were bypassing enough water to not put extra pressure on the dam. We're getting enough water out of the pond to not raise the pond up too high on the upstream side of Salem Street. So there are some pretty meaningful engineering constraints. I'm sure Derek's a great engineer. He can figure them out, but it's a lot more effort, cost, and time.
Just putting some numbers on that rather than just saying it's more. I think that would help us be able to balance the cost benefit. That's what it's all about.
The other thing that I would like to see again is exactly how much the pond in the dam is going to be lowered, because it's like, again, there's no, is it from today, last week, 2 months ago?
Well,
What does it mean?
Isn't it to the level of the lowest stop log? I mean, that's your.
Well, no, maybe if we are in a drought, it's going to be lower. I mean, it would have to be kind of like a game time decision on where it is.
Right, if it's rained a lot, the pond's going to be higher. If it's been dry for a week.
Like you said, it's a dynamic ecosystem where water is higher and lower. So I mean, I understand.
But the lowest will be at the.
You know what
where
level
it's gonna
you need
be.
it to be at.
Right, you know
Right.
where it's going to go. So I think
Well,
that-
but you could put all the stops in, because it's very low right now. You could put stops in, and you'd gain almost 2 feet of storage space in that pond. And certainly, unless there was a 100-year storm the next day, you would have 2 or 3 days, and no water would be flowing through it. So I don't see the need to lower it any more than what it's lowered.
Well, you can't. Well, unfortunately, if the pond is not lower, then the work cannot be done, unless
No, but-
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what is the, an engineer should be able to tell us what the distance is from the very bottom of that weir to the top.
We have this information.
This-
Yep.
Okay, so,
Then that information will be forthcoming in
In the next meeting.
in the next meeting. So like, this is why I think maybe it was not a great thing to come here giving you some very, maybe too vague information, but we're just trying to let you know that this is coming and this is why. The next meeting will have much more technical information, I'm sure, and then with much more actual information. At this point, these are our plans, this is the threat, this is our solution. And like you said, so this has been happening for 20 years, you say, but in 2023, when the whole road collapsed, I think that's the red flag where this probably should have been happening back then. So
I appreciate you coming here now, because if you came next month asking for it, I would not have been able to say, because I would be like, I don't understand this, and then we'd be in July, then you'd be in August trying to.
And I would recommend at some point going to the site,
Absolutely.
looking at it and saying, all right, how does this really work? Because you know what, it's not a dam. It's not a dam in a classical sense. That you might think you see the Hoover Dam. This is how the way it was built with the stop logs and how it's managed, and there's a grate over it. Like, you have to remove that grate to get in there. So there's a lot of stuff that you'd actually want to see. As many pictures as I can give you. There's a lot of pictures in that report to actually see it and see how it functions and see the pond behind it. And the pond it's very vast and flat, and it's not a you can see it kind of meanders and stuff. So.
I guess I just want to make sure that if there's something we should be watching to make sure that the road is safe to stay open. Because I'm worried about the vehicle traffic and the safety of the people who live around it.
And we have another 6-month report that's going to come up. Obviously, at that when's the next report that we have, Derek, scheduled with you?
6 months would be sometime in October.
So, so that's supposed to be, that's the mechanism that they have so that you can watch it. Obviously, I monitor it. I'm there looking at it.
Okay.
Once a week, just because I'm invested in the project.
Okay.
But no, you're right. I mean, if we get if someone calls in a pothole on that road in there somewhere, that's going to be an indication something's happening.
Okay.
Subterranean.
Thank
Get a
you.
question.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Now, I just had a thought, and I don't know if this would help at all, but you're thinking that this work might be done during the summer then, obviously, right? So the stop logs are still out at Johnson's Pond. If the stop logs could be put back in, all that water now is spilling down through Meadow Pond and going out. If the stop logs were put back in, and of course, we don't have any idea if it's going to be a rainy season or not, but at the point we might be able to, after the job is done, release one of those stop logs and it would fill up the Meadow Pond quicker. Right now, all the water's pouring out of Johnson's Pond. So it just seems to me to make sense to put those stop logs in now, keep that height of that pond where it should be before we have, more drought conditions or whatever. And then we have that water kind of banked for when we need to replenish Meadow Pond. Just a thought.
I can answer that. So I went there today.
Oh, thank you.
And all the stop logs that I'm aware of are in at the Johnson Creek Dam. I'm not aware of the upstream ones on Johns.
Washington Street, the Salem Street Dam has all of its logs in.
Yep.
It's May 12th, which is Monday.
Yep.
But does Johnson's, because if they weren't in the other day,
Which at Johnson's Pond? Yeah, I did not inspect that.
That's the one we've been asking to get them back in. That's the boating area, the fishing area.
Yeah, I'm not aware. I'm not aware of what I didn't. I haven't looked up there.
I just thought that would be a prudent kind of way to manage this going forward, is to bank some of the water now.
Yeah, I mean hydraulically, I don't know how that you'd want to do that, but I mean, yeah, it's a valid point. I just yeah. Yeah, the engineers will tell us what the best way of doing that. I don't.
Water's just pouring out of Johnson's Pond.
Well, Johnson's Pond's pretty full.
Yes, go ahead.
She said she could only hear your half of the
Oh,
conversation.
okay. So her suggestion is that there is the upper pond, which is in Johnson Pond, and as of now, there is some stop logs removed, and they should be put back so that we can bank the water on the top, so that after we finish completing the work, we can untake the stop log off so that I can refill it. Correct? Yes.
But wouldn't it make sense to do that just before the project?
Yes. So we'd use that water to fill it after we're done, which I guess it's a good idea. But that would be something we have to discuss. And I don't know how ecologically if that's the best thing either. So I think that maybe Derek might or you guys, GZA might be able to.
What I would like to say is, in the interest of dam safety, public safety, the lower the water is upstream of Salem Street, the better. If you would remove all the stop logs, it would make it safer than if all the stop logs are in, because you have less water pushing on the dam. That should definitely be considered by everybody.
Yes, and that's I think that's just common sense. The less water against the Johnson Creek Dam is the less pressure and less likelihood of collapse. But
There's,
I know. I know. We're talking about Johnson Pond. I'm saying on the current one that I've been speaking about. Yeah.
I think we just need some better analysis on the situation, because I don't know, again, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you can only lower that pond level so much, but if, to do the work in the culvert and sleeve it, what if, you lowered it as low as you could go and water is still flowing over the cement structure there? So, we need to see some more data.
Well, they can't work if there's water in it, so they can't. It's cast in place. So
Intent is to lower the water and then put the stop logs in, so water's not flowing through it.
And that while the work is being done, we can lower it to the fixed crest of the concrete. We put the stop logs in, the guys show up. The water starts creeping up the stop logs, and that gives them enough time to get the work done.
Well, again, if you look at the other dam on Washington Street and use them together, it might make more sense.
It would make sense to do that, though, maybe a week before.
Yeah.
You don't start stockpiling it now. You want to do it like a week. Calculate how long it takes to fill, and put the logs in whatever time that is, a week before, 2 weeks before, 2
Again,
days
this is-
before, whatever it is.
And again, like I said, today we're speaking a little bit more vaguely than I'd like to speak about this project.
Next
Obviously,
time.
we would be, I think, a little bit more direct with the exact process of this next time. But it's, some good input, we'll take it. But there's obviously, GZ has a lot of experience with dams. So we take all of the recommendations, and I think that we refer to the experts on how to do this correctly. And again, we have all intent of filing, and we're not here to just tell you and then not file. So we wanted to. That's why we're here.
All right. Thanks for the update.
Yeah, I think just before we leave, I would like to touch on a couple administrative and process items. So we will be requesting an emergency certification at some point in the next few weeks. We don't know exactly when yet. I heard tonight that you will want an after the fact notice of intent for the emergency certification, which is fine. No pushback from us. Separately, there is the enforcement order. And just to respond to that, my understanding is that the stop logs at Johnson Creek Dam have been replaced. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Arthur, but they were replaced on Monday.
Yes, they're all in there.
You're talking about the Salem Street Dam, not Johnson Dam.
No, Johnson Creek Dam. That's the official
Yes,
name of it. Yeah.
but it's confusing when you say that.
But that's
The
but that's the
dam
name
on
is
Salem Street.
that's the name is classified as by. But anyways, okay, yeah, go ahead.
At Salem Street, the stop logs have been replaced. So it is slowly filling up to its normal water surface elevation. The enforcement order cited that material was dumped in a vegetated wetland, but as I said, we've delineated and there's not a vegetated wetland there. I'm sure there's some vegetation growing within the bank, but it's just bank and land underwater. My understanding, it was stockpiled along the edge of the road. It's debris that was cleaned out from the inlet structure. And that it's not known if it was a beaver dam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no record of any beaver dam that I've been able to find.
Yeah,
So-
it was accumulated debris and mud or, sticks, organic debris that had built up on the trash rack and the weir. And so the town cleaned that out, stockpiled it on the side of the road. The material's been removed. The stop logs are back in place. So besides for the fact that prior authorization was not obtained, the concerns have largely been addressed. But I did there was a request in the enforcement order to file a notice of intent by May 21st so that it could be heard next June. And if the Conservation Commission finds it acceptable, I would suggest or request that we be allowed to file an after the fact notice of intent that addresses the enforcement order concerns and the emergency certification concerns in one filing after the fact. So we would probably file in June and be heard in July, but that it would be one comprehensive filing for this site to save on some administrative effort for the town in terms of notification and noticing and so forth.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
He says tentatively.
I'm okay.
I agree, yeah.
Mike?
I mean,
Thoughts?
it's not something we vote on.
Yeah, there's no motion or anything,
I live downstream from that, so my thoughts are a little clouded.
what exactly did we say? I mean, do we have to amend anything.
No, we can close out the enforcement order.
Okay.
Well, that would probably please them.
Well, I mean, she makes a good point in which we have addressed all of the concerns in the enforcement.
I think the problems that we had initially are being addressed.
Did we get a copy of the enforcement order?
It's in the packet.
It's in here. Oh, I was looking at that email.
Is that something we vote on, or we just?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to close out the enforcement order.
Second.
The enforcement order as in the documentation there dated May 8th.
Second.
Gracias.
Any questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous.
There's a win for Adrian.
Excellent, great. I earned my ice cream tonight.
All right, so Becca's getting something, you guys are getting us something, and we're
Oh, yeah.
poised and ready.
We need, well, I think we need to think about.
Site walk,
I'd like to.
you just go
I know,
there, because
I
it's a
know.
road.
It's a road.
The
VZ Park.
Sidewalk is currently blocked off.
But do we want to do something formal?
It's the outflow side that you really need, you know, the inflow side is, you
Well,
just
what are
look
they,
at the
30 feet
level.
apart?
But the outflow side is
Yeah,
the
that's where it's
side-
getting eroded.
Yeah, where it would be good to hear Arthur's explanation of it.
So you're saying something formal then?
Yeah, I mean, probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
The more information we have ahead of this emergency order request is better.
Yeah, you can arrange with me, you know, my working hours, just let me know, I'm available.
We got Memorial Day weekend coming up,
Yeah, so
sooner rather than later.
during the week sometime.
Tuesday, the 20th?
Nope.
Wednesday, the 21st, after work? No, but that's, so are you talking like
That's what?
weekday during office hours for Arthur?
Well, you know, say 4 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Well, if these are your normal working hours, we could meet at, 9 o'clock at night.
Jeez.
How about the
Bring your lamp.
22nd, Thursday, the 22nd?
What's wrong with the
That's
21st?
Nurses' night at Fenway.
What was wrong with the 21st?
We have something that night
Oh, you do, okay.
that's taping.
Oh,
night.
we're taping that night.
Unless we did it at 4 o'clock.
Whoa, unless we did it when?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock
Site walk at 4?
on Wednesday, on the 20th?
Wait, no, I work on Wednesdays.
Oh,
So that's why, so,
Tuesday, we can't.
I can't, but I'm gonna go down myself anyway.
I know, but you gotta see that,
Yeah.
you can't get to that
Okay,
outlet
all right.
side.
What's wrong with the?
what about the 27th then?
What about the 19th? The 27th is like Memorial Day, isn't it?
It's a Tuesday.
What?
No.
No.
7th?
Is the
Yeah,
day
could you-
after.
The 27th, Tuesday,
What time?
What time is good for, I'm off.
4 o'clock,
4 o'clock?
so we don't have to keep Arthur in town for hours on
It's on my
end.
way home, so I'm good.
He
If
doesn't
the
mind
road's
working
still
late.
there.
Yeah, not if
Working
they.
late. Your
not if
salary,
it's
right?
Construction.
I can't comment on that. I guess so. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's half hour, I kind of make it up.
All right, 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Site walk, Salem
27th.
Street Dam.
4 o'clock's gonna be tough.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's okay?
Yeah, we gotta just see some things in person.
I'll try.
Yeah.
4:30, better? 5?
5 is probably the best
Out there.
5 is better, all
Can
right.
we do 5? For,
for my sake.
We can figure, what's the date on that?
it's
22nd?
Tuesday the,
27th.
7.
Tuesday the 27th. I think I should be fine, yeah. If you
All
want
right.
to send me an invite, can we send like one of those, meeting invites?
okay.
Yeah, I can work with
You'll have had a
Okay.
3-day weekend.
Would you like to come, Rebecca?
A little later.
Tanned and rested.
So you definitely want to come.
At 5 o'clock? Let's do it.
Don't wear those shoes.
Bring your boots.
Appreciate your time, sorry.
That's okay, you know, hopefully the Celtics won, but we don't know.
Oh, do you want to know?
I don't want to know. That's
You don't want to know,
actually
okay.
better off than I was here.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Let's try to finish up here.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
still
Can we
more to
finish
go.
by 10 regardless?
I can try. Depends how cooperative you want to be.
I'm ready to give you a motion.
Whatever it takes, Mike.
I'm giving you a motion to close.
All right, so number 8, document and forms update. I don't have anything for tonight, but you saw that tree removal. I want to
You want to formalize
add
that?
some stuff to that for maybe next time, so we've got that in place as a regular policy.
Sounds good.
So review this and we'll vote on it next month?
Yeah, well, I'll send out the draft. It may take a couple of months to
Okay,
adopt it, because there'll be extra stuff in there besides what you have in front of you.
Okay.
The next one, number 9, adopt a space. So I sent the final with all the changes. I got some change suggestions from Tom and from Stephanie. I worked most of those in there. And, let's see, what did I say about that? Yes, and so I think it's ready to go.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to adopt the adopt a space policy as submitted tonight.
Seconded?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I have 2, sorry about this here, 2 applications for adopt a space. Oh, here they are. I didn't copy these, but Lovely Earth is going to take over the planters at the VZ boat launch, and they're also going to take over the plantings around the new Welcome to VZ sign. And they're meeting all the requirements under the new policy. So I'll make a motion to accept these applications.
Second.
Is that second?
That was a second.
It is.
Any questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Trail Stewardship Program, let's see, where is it? Okay. I've been working on the draft documents for this. They're almost complete. I'm hoping to bring them to the next meeting. We've got an active steward for Meadow Pond who's raring to go to utilize some of the funds that were approved at the town meeting for the CPA project of the trails enhancement money, where we got about $70,000 to do all kinds of signage and bridge repair. And so he's raring to go, so he'll be ready to propose something for July. And so we just need any one of us think about being the person in charge of the overall stewardship program. Hopefully you would have 6 stewards under you working at each site, and you would just have to manage them.
I nominate Tom Schaefer.
Second.
Sounds like a job.
Now, we need a volunteer.
Yeah.
No, it's.
So
not-
would you be responsible for the budget and, I mean, they have to come to us to tell us what they want to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really know yet till you see what the steward job is. The stewards have to like go and do an inventory of work that needs to be
Right.
done and then come up with estimates maybe on how they're gonna do it, when they're gonna do it. And maybe you're meeting with each steward once every couple of months to review their plans
And
and
their
check up
progress.
on them and answer questions.
Okay.
Perfect job for you, Bill. Think about it.
Yeah, no, I will.
Next on the list, VZ Park updates. So I gave you a handout on the rubbish to runway. Get your tickets soon because it sells out. And it's a fun night, either Friday the 27th or Saturday the 28th in June. I'm working on closing out the fiscal year '25 finances and putting together the fiscal year '26 plan and budget for the park with Vanessa. And we'll have that ready for next meeting and send it out ahead of time for you to see for comments. And conservation agents update. I mean, I pretty much told you everything that's going on, except that at town meeting was approval for revitalizing the economic development, planning, and conservation departments, hiring of a planner / conservation agent. So, the town administrator is going to start working on hiring somebody. So hopefully, we might have an agent sometime before the end of the summer.
Yay.
So that'd be good. Get back to where we used to be. Any other questions for open discussion? Any items not reasonably anticipated?
Move to.
Next
Second.
meeting, June 11th.
Get us down.
Put it on your
Seconded.
calendar. Was there a motion? I
There
didn't
was.
quite hear.
Terry and Stephanie seconded. All in favor?
All
Aye.
in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
This time, I'm not gonna put my phone in a folding chair.
Oh, that's different.
No, it's.